Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Can you guys believe it? We are literally what 2 weeks, 2 days away from the August 9th Wisconsin primaries. I know Democrats and Republicans, but I'm really not focused on the Democrats at this point. I probably should be, but facts are facts. I'm focusing on Republicans. Because right now, at this point, I think that we have enough internal strife, internal division, and all this other nonsense that we need to be focusing on ourselves first. Um, and we can certainly get into all of that, but if we don't get our act together, we only got 2 months. 2 months from August 9th until election day. I think it's a little less than two if I recall correctly, but 2 months to get our act together. So we'll talk about that tonight. Obviously, there was a governor's debate tonight. I want to talk about that. And of course, the various primary races. We'll discuss this here. I'm going to bring on some guests. If you want to be a guest, feel free. Hit me up here in the chat room. You guys can definitely do that. And I can send you over the link if you're on Facebook. If you are on any other platform, send me your email. I can get you the link that way too. And then, of course, what do we got? Let's make sure we got the right banners here. Make sure that you're going to smash that like button. I got to throw that out there around the top because I will forget it later on. Smash that like button here. Go to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. We're trying to get to that magic number 100. It's going to give us a community tab where we'll be able to post more content. And then, of course, a customized URL. We're on that road to 1,000 subs, but right now we'll take 100. So we'll do that for sure. But, man, we got a lot of stuff going on here. We got a lot. First thing I want to get into, though, and I want to talk about this because I thought it was an outstanding event. It was damn good. It was super strong. Yesterday, the Republican Party of Milwaukee County had their second annual picnic. Now, I find it a bit fascinating because, remember, I warned you guys. I've talked to you guys about this all the time, about being aware of your bubble, being aware of your sphere of influence, and understanding that the world is a lot bigger than you think it is. So what do I mean by that? What I mean here is I'll use myself as an example. Before I moved down here to rural Wisconsin, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, BFE as it were, my thought process was there was a friend of mine who he had moved up to like the Appleton area. I'm like, why would anybody want to leave like Milwaukee? I mean, like there's nothing beyond like Menominee Falls. Oh man, what a short-sighted view I had at that time. And it's funny because once you get out of your bubble, once you get out of that sphere that you live in, the world becomes a lot bigger. And you see things not so much for what you saw them just living in the metro Milwaukee area, but rather you see it from a much more holistic, much more widespread perspective. And I think that's something that a lot of us really lack. And I think we saw that today in tonight's debate from the various supporters. I think we see that within the division that we've seen across this platform. And we're going to try to break that up a little bit here. Obviously, if you guys are following me on Facebook, I had a lot of commentary on there and interesting debate. But let's go back to the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. One of the things that I've often heard about the Republican Party of Milwaukee County was how they are a do-nothing, lazy, the worst county party in the state. Well, I suppose if you don't get out of the metro Milwaukee area, that's going to be your perception. That also tells me that you don't know anything beyond beyond those borders. It tells me you don't go exploring anywhere else. It tells me you don't see any other places. It tells me you generally don't know what you're talking about. And I want to give a shout out here to a young man, Hilario De Leon. He's the second vice chair of Milwaukee County Party. And I got to tell you, I think they put on a phenomenal event there last night. Yeah, he thought it was really well put together. They had a band, they had speakers, they had Brian Shimming, they had Brian Style, they had a few other people I can't remember offhand. The candidates that were in attendance, Rebecca Clayfish, they had Adam Fisher. There was a representative there from Tim Michael's table. Let's see here. I know I'm missing somebody here. Tim Rantham was there. There was a bunch of lieutenant governor candidates: Jonathan Wickman, Will Martin, David Burnham, representatives from David King's team. Cindy Warner was there. I was there. Orlando Owens was there. His opponent was there. And it was, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought it was an outstanding event. They had food, they had drink, they had speakers, music, they had activities. There were even a couple of youngins running around. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. So for a so-called county party that doesn't do anything, boy, they sure as hell put something together pretty tight. As a matter of fact, they put that together, and they also had another event going on at Kosciuszko Park right around the same time. So I want to make sure we give a shout out to Hilario de Leon, the Republican Party of Milwaukee County, for doing such an outstanding event. And I really hope that they make this literally an annual event. I think the church they had it at, it was the Tri-County Baptist Church in Franklin, was a great spot for it. It was a 3-hour event. And like I said, it was another amazing opportunity to network, to get to know, meet, see, interact with other conservatives. And I got to admit, I do have a bit of a gripe here, because I know Darlene was there and I didn't get to run into her again. Let's give a shout out to the people in the chat room right now. We got Stephanie Suchek from Door County. We got Darlene Wink right there from the Milwaukee County area. We got Chris. Chris, I'm not going to pronounce your last name because I will probably butcher it, and I don't need you punching me in the throat. But we got Chris up in here. We got Tracy Stefanski up here. I know Chris had a question. I want to definitely get into that here. He goes, man, I had to look for this. He gave me 0 notifications, including the governor debate. And this is where we got to make sure that we have to keep spreading out the information. We have to share these episodes out. We got to get information out to other conservatives. This is Brian Shimming talked about this last week. I was on a broadcast with Stephanie Suchek. I was on a broadcast with her and Brian Shimming, and he said the same thing yesterday, where he talked about how each one of us has the ability to have our own radio show, our own platform, our own podcast, if you will. And I thought that was just really, really awesome for him to say that, because if you think about it, each and every one of us has a sphere of influence. Each and every one of us has a group of people that we can resonate with, talk to, other things like that. And we need to make sure that we as conservatives start creating content. We as conservatives start putting out things like this. And then, of course, sharing this stuff out. Because as Chris noted on here, he didn't get the notifications for this. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting those notifications. And part of the way of doing that is by getting you guys to jump in, helping out everything that we do here. And I don't care what we're talking about as far as your candidate from Tim Rantham to Tim Michaels, Rebecca Clayfish, Adam Fish, everybody's a grassroots campaign. Because the way that I have seen people just killing it on the doors, I've seen them interacting with people, man, you got to give a hat tip to that. And I know, guys. I know for some people, this is going to upset them. How dare you say Rebecca Clayfish is grassroots? Here's the reality. She is. You're grassroots too. But I think for some people, it's bad soil that grass is coming up on. But that's just my take. What do I know? I just work here. That's all. But we'll get into that. Hilario de Leon, we're going to get him on here. And we want to talk about this. I know I keep missing you, Darlene. I just really think cow, only Mao. Okay. See, I wasn't sure how to pronounce that right. And I don't want to butcher it, because I have a problem with doing that. And it's funny because everyone's like, well, you speak Spanish? No, I speak English, one language. And I managed to screw that one up too. But that's just, kind of how things go. Hilario, I sent you the link. Come on down. Sheboygan, Judith Poole, what's going on? How are you? Good to see you. Shout out to Sheboygan County. Darlene mentioned on here that her family was there to listen to my cousin's husband play the band. That was awesome. Yeah, Tracy. And Tracy, I apologize I didn't get back to you yesterday. I needed to. Was supposed to. But yeah, he had his own event to go to. So we definitely, it would have been great. It's always great to connect with Stacy. Great guy. If you don't know him, you got to make sure you check him out. But yeah, like I said, it was just a lot of networking opportunity, a lot of wonderful people to talk to. We set up a booth there and, again, talking, mingling, working with other conservatives, all that other good stuff here. Laura De Leon, second vice president of Milwaukee County Republican Party or Republican Party Milwaukee County, depending on how the Constitution is written, whatever. You get what I'm saying.
How are you doing, Brother Ed? Thank you for having me on the show again after our, kick-ass event that we had yesterday. And I don't care about my language. We had a phenomenal time.
Well, be nice with the language here. I'm trying to get not to get a strike on YouTube here. I am actually trying to play nice. I know. Scary.
Very scary. These are strange times we're living in, Ed.
Well, like I said, if you want to try to grow that, you got to play by their rules, and that's just the way of things. But so you put this event together. The second annual county, Republican Party Milwaukee County second annual picnic, and there was a lot of people in attendance. What would you estimate the attendance was?
So last year, let me let people know this. So I helped organize.
Bring us up to date there.
So last year I organized the first annual summer picnic. This year I organized the second annual summer picnic. The first year we had up to 100 people in attendance throughout the entire day. Same time. It was in August, I believe, and we had up to 100 people. Well, this year we had, the same time, 11 to 2, and we had up to 300 people throughout the entire day.
Wow. That's awesome.
I was so happy at the turnout, the networking, and this was very different. Don't let people fool you. Hey, kitty, don't do that. No,
that's my Popeye.
Don't let anyone fool you and think, oh, we've done this before in Milwaukee County, because I guarantee you we have not. So this was a very different concept, and it was with myself and the help of my volunteers that were help organizing this thing. We decided to have it more of a fair, more feel like an actual county fair. We didn't want any of the actual candidates to speak, because it was up to the candidates to interact with the people at their tables. So people would go walking through the tents, and that's why I had them bring tents to give it that county fair feel to it. And it would also help us line up the tables a lot better, and it was up to that candidate to that was true politicking. What we were doing yesterday was anyone that was on the fence, or maybe they had a candidate that they were more leaning to, that candidate that was in attendance, maybe they could switch someone's mind and truly try and get more votes before the primary. So that was one thing we did. It was also very entertaining and interactive. We had a lot of games. We had the cornhole games as usual. We had our big balloon and dart game. I saw some people were playing it throughout the day. Thank you, Tracy. I know I saw your text message. Sorry I didn't get back to you. We'll hope to see you at the next year's event when it's bigger and better. We had the balloon and dart game, like I said, and then we also had everyone's favorite thing, the dunk tank. I think
let me stop right here. I'm gonna re-upload that video. The Dr. Fauci video was. You keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can find it here, because I think I might be able to pull this file.
Oh my God.
And if I can, it is so incredibly epic.
If you could pull both of them up, because I know you have your video and then the one I got from Leslie Hubert. If you're able to.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
Because that one is just, there's something in there that everyone has to hear that just is so perfect.
I haven't been able to download Leslie's yet, but I got the Fauci one here. So let me see if let me try to pull this up here.
So yes,
And if you guys haven't seen it,
Shut down.
here we go.
This is a super spreader. This whole place needs to be shut down. This is a super spreader event. No one's wearing a mask. I brought a whole box of masks with me to throw at people like you. You need your mask. Wear your mask. God damn it. Your mask.
The Fauci thing was awesome.
Everyone was having so much fun with it. I wish more people actually came over to like throw softballs at the target because, you know, honestly, it was about, hey, Stephanie. Oh, I think she's muted.
Sound's not working yet. Oh, she'll get it, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Fauci, you know, was just in general the cherry on top. I think everyone had a great time with it. Some candidates were able to come over and throw softballs at the target. I think out of all the candidates from that I saw, the only person that really hit it, although it didn't drop in, was Will Martin. He was able to hit the target.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was. So, you know, good on him for having pretty good aim. But, you know, Julian Bradley was taking pictures of it. People were just taking videos. They were having a great time. For those that don't know, I was Dr. Fauci in the dunk tank. You know, you never see Dr. Fauci and Hilario in the same room together. It's kind of like Bruce Wayne and Batman. I mean,
I understand this.
Now, I'm not evil like him, but you know, it's a hell of an impression to put out there. And the mask was, everyone just thought the mask was just perfect. It's scary how much it looked just like him. But
what kind of bugged me out about the mask is that as you were talking, the mouth was moving. And it's like, dude, like this is like some B-rate horror film type of stuff you see from like the 1980s. But that's kind of what made it that much cooler too. So it was like it was scary yet entertaining at the same time. And I
even had the glasses, but I noticed it wasn't staying on the mask as much, so I had to put it in the coat pocket. But people didn't see. I had a little ID of like an actual picture of Dr. Fauci on the lab coat, and it was just so much fun. I wish I could have stayed longer. Hey, Brian, thank you.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Brian Shimming. You know, I gotta share an idea that he shared with me, and I'm gonna do that later in the show because he gave me this really, really great tip, and we're gonna run with it for a future broadcast. So you guys are gonna want to stay tuned for that because it's gonna be a big deal. We're gonna have a lot of people on, and like I said, just stand by for that. But Brian did an awesome job there too, and one of the things I gotta give a shout out to him because one of the things I really respect and like about what he does is that he's literally everywhere.
Oh, Stephanie's gone.
I think she had to check her sound there because it wasn't coming through. But Brian is literally everywhere. Like I've seen him up in like, you know, Manawa. I've seen him up in, you know, Madison, Milwaukee, and everywhere in between. And that's the type of thing that, you know, when you talk about having your finger on the pulse, it's seeing what's going on. That's a huge idea, you know, and I think that really speaks to his character. I think it speaks to him as a person. And it's, I can't thank him enough because he's always made time to come by, talk, and just, you know, even for a few minutes. And, you know, I got to give a big thank you to him for that.
Oh, definitely. And him being the MC really helped out. I think that was a great idea. Where did you get the mask? Well, you see, it wasn't really a mask. You know, sometimes
he's a skinwalker. But no. What is that from Game of Thrones? The faceless men.
You know, I just inject myself with a booster and I just turn into Dr.
Oh, whatever works.
Actually, I got it from Party City. It was so it just I looked online and I just found it. I was like, oh my God, this is just coming together too perfectly. And it was kind of like an early sign that the picnic was going to be a great success.
Yeah.
Now there were some candidates and groups that were supposed to be there that weren't able to make it. Everyone has busy schedules, but you know, next year I mean, I don't even want to talk about next year right away because there's just so many other things to highlight. Dan Miller was walking around. He took some phenomenal pictures throughout the day.
Speaking of which, too, you also had Japanese media there.
Yes. So we were able to get a Japanese media outlet that is stationed in Washington, D.C. to actually come all the way from D.C. to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, go to the Franklin picnic, and go walk around and interact with people and get their takes on the midterms and future elections. I'm sure I didn't get interviewed myself, but I did talk with the gentleman before. We also did have a World War II heavy bomber that flew over the picnic during the day. So you saw that, I saw that, a few other people saw that. So, you know, from a county party that doesn't really do anything in the eyes of a few people, we managed to get a heavy bomber to fly over. Now, I'm not going to say it was all credit to us. It did help that we had the air show going on.
Well, I'm sure it helps that you were in the flight path of the heavy bomber.
Yeah, I strategically picked that location so that we could be in the flight path.
Well, here, and let's bring Stephanie on here. Stephanie, are you able to hear us?
I am now. So can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't know why that was. So I think I had my tablet plugged in, and as soon as I unplugged it, and then I plugged my earbuds in, and now it's fine. So I don't know if that was the issue, but yeah. So I'm glad I can hear you now.
Excellent. Well, welcome on board here. Let me regale you guys with a story from yesterday. And it was an absolutely beautiful day, amazing event, the whole bit. And great conversation, great networking. Good to see people I haven't seen in months. And so on the way home, like we knew bad weather was coming in. So on the way home, my wife, my son, getting a little hungry. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to hit, we'll hit Fond du Lac and we'll go stop in, get Popeye's chicken, right? Because it's meat, it's chicken. Well, I couldn't go down that road because it was blocked off due to construction. So we went to Arby's instead. We, sat down, ate a little bit. And again, we know what bad weather's coming. We're thinking it's going to come in about, 5:30. Finish up with Arby's, hit the road, start going west, go through Ripon, and then we go to this one town called Berlin. So to do that, we have to turn northbound. I don't know why I did that. Once we get into Berlin, we don't even get into Berlin just yet. Let me just put it like this. We're probably like 3-4 miles outside of Berlin. And the rains come down. Like my wife is actually thinking we just drove into a tornado. We had like maybe 1.5 feet of visibility outside of the windows. My son is just sitting back here, Purdue, just gaming away, having a great time. He's not really paying attention at the moment. So we finally make it to Berlin. And mind you, this is probably like 3-4 miles I have to drive, but it took like a half hour to get there. And as we get in, rain's still coming down, just not as hard. We see this gigantic tree. And this bad boy had been snapped in half, was like inside somebody's house.
Jesus.
Somebody's having a bad day. But it gets worse. From this little town of Berlin in Green Lake County to my house, it is literally 15 minutes tops. Did I make it home in 15 minutes? No, I did not. It took like another hour because we're like taking normal roads, we think, but then there's trees down, there's power lines down, we're doubling back, we're going this way, that way. It was like, I can think of at least 6 or 7 different ways to get from Berlin to my house. And like 5 of them were cut off. And it was like, okay, this is just like not cool. But for all the things that I got knocked down, for all the things that had gone on, we make it. And I'll tell you, I got home. Not one of my yard signs were gone. They were strong. They were strong like a bull. That means it's going to be a strong red year. That's all I'm saying.
It's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
I got to say, Ed, you were like the caramel conservative storm chasers. You got to start a new New segment on the show.
But I don't want to be like. I'm seeing people like, oh man, I'd love to be a storm chaser, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love for you to be a storm chaser too, so that way I don't have to. No,
So
you
somebody
have
else
like
can
no
take the risk.
idea how many natural disasters I have lived through in my life between hurricanes, typhoons, earthquakes, tsunamis. No, I am done. Why do you think I moved to
Don't
Wisconsin?
forget about the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's a pretty good impression.
Oh,
I was wondering if that was you. I saw that online, the Dr. Fauci mask, which I found a little creepy.
Well, that's good because
The mouth movie, right?
That was the point, I'm sure.
he is a creepy man. So I mean,
Exactly.
I think it was him. I mean, I didn't see him, but no, it was him.
But you weren't.
I was so busy.
Pretty
I was
close.
so busy throughout the event. I mean, but you know, no. Get back to the picnic.
Go back to the event. Yes.
I am so thankful for all the people that were there, not only that came in attendance, but mostly the people that helped out. I mean, they could have been doing anything other on their Saturday morning and afternoon. They didn't have to come to the picnic. They didn't have to help out, but they showed up. And I think it's a major sign. One, this is coming from a county party that does nothing, according to some people. I mean,
Right.
we managed to get around 300 people out to the picnic to network
Wow.
with candidates, network with each other, enjoy a band, enjoy some food, get yard signs, business cards, you name it. It was the whole 9 yards. And, you know, one of my volunteers, Bruce Bull, I mean, I call him the passion. He's literally so passionate about many things, and he was a major help to this event. But he honestly told me, and he's very particular how things are. He said, Hilario, this was one of the best Republican events I've ever been to because it was all networking. It was true politicking. You know, we could sit there and listen to the same old speeches, this 5 minutes each that we can all just get from a probably 2-minute commercial. When instead we can actually go up to the candidate, get to know them as a person, and ask them the real questions that matter to people. Now, I wish more candidates were able to come for even a little bit, but again, I know everyone's schedule is busy. And so I'm just happy with anyone who came or the representatives that they had there tabling for them. They were all very nice. They all had a great time. And I went around to everyone and said, how was it? Did you have a good time? Like, was it good for people coming to your table? And they all said yes. And
So,
like I said, yeah, go ahead.
Do you fill me in really quick? So was your format, it sounds like, because I missed the beginning part of this. Maybe you already explained. Was it more like, were there no speeches then? I mean, was it mostly? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Ed's back. We did have speakers, but this is how. So the event went from 11 to 2, and from 11 till 1 o'clock, I had candidate. Well, at 10:30, I had candidates come, groups come like Pro Life Wisconsin, Wisconsin Right to Life. The John Burke Society was there. We had an election integrity group there that were signing people up to be poll workers.
Yep.
We had Ed Delgado there as the Caramel conservative. So,
yeah, you had this very highly sus guy over here.
Yeah, him and his family, all sus.
Yep.
They came. They set up tents and tables. If they didn't have tables, we provided tables to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
We lined it up in a way to where you had rows. And once 11 o'clock came around and people started to come, they went from table to table, or they would go get food, eat first, and then go and interact with people, interact with games. We had the band start right away at 11 o'clock, and that went all the way till 1 o'clock. And then right around 1 o'clock, we had the speakers. So we had, pledge and prayer. I welcomed everyone. I didn't talk very long. I probably should have said a few more words since I did organize the event, but I really wanted to get off the stage and let other people speak. So we had Brian Schimming as the MC, David Karst, chairman. He spoke talking about Milwaukee County. I didn't hear all the speeches because I kept running around talking to people, making sure everything was going well. And then we had Congressman Stile there talking, State Senator Julian Bradley, since it was his district. And we also had Republican Party of Wisconsin's state chairman Paul Farrow there. So I'm really glad that he came. He kind of closed it out, and then Brian said the last few words to the crowd, and then we went from there to let the band play another 15 more minutes as the event ended, and we cleaned up. And
let's also give a shout out too, because Paul Farrow was there, as was Leslie Hubert, who is the grassroots director for RPW.
Like
and Leslie is absolutely amazing. I love, talking with her, working with her. And it was funny because she brought her son, and so there's her son, there's my son. I think they're like a year apart. And they're both kind of like this weird, awkward, we're on our phones way too much. And they start gaming, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, here, I'll friend you on Roblox.
Oh my gosh, my son plays Roblox.
Start sharing them names out, and they'll like just start playing with each other. It's like, okay, cool, whatever, do your thing, guys. But funny. No, I think overall it was a great event. I mean, music was good, everything. I mean, it's just absolutely awesome.
How long was the event? You said it was like 11. It was from 11 until.
It was from 11 to 2. Okay. Some people had to. I mean, that was the time we had last year. It really worked out for many people. The other thing is, sorry, my camera's all jacked up. I'm having issues here.
He's trying to get his Snuggie into the picture and everything too. So yeah,
this is my brother's blanket for like when people come over. Anyways, that sounds wrong. Oh, jeez. So it was from 11 to 2. So I'm thinking of extending it another hour to allow people to still like finish networking, finish talking up, and then get a few more songs. But next year I have a whole new plan for it. It's going to be very different because we're not going to have as many candidates running.
Right. It'll be a little easier, maybe.
I won't tell anyone what my plans are. I know I talked a little bit with Ed, just kind of gave him sprinkle some hints in there as to what I was planning to do. But if you want to figure out what's going on next year, you just got to come on out and hang out with Milwaukee County. And I got to say this. I know you mentioned this earlier, Ed, but I got to do a shout out to my volunteers that I've worked with, and one of our donors who's very passionate about the RNC office on 13th and Lincoln down in the Hispanic community. Milwaukee County the Republican Party of Milwaukee County was not only able to have and hold our second annual summer picnic in Franklin on the southwestern part of the county, we were also able to have a group table at Kosciuszko Park on the south side of Milwaukee near the Basilica in the Hispanic community at a Unity community event that Pastor Marty and other groups in the community put on. So we were able to promote Ron Johnson and all our candidates that are running. And we joined up with Operation Vamos, so they came out and they were able to help get their stuff out to the community as well. And I actually, after the summer picnic, even though I was dead tired from tearing everything down and I was absolutely just drenched in sweat, I went out to Kosciuszko Park and I got there probably around 4:30-ish, around that time, and stayed till 6 p.m. And no, it wasn't 4:30. I'd say it was 5 o'clock, and then stayed till 6, so about an hour, and walked around with some people and talked to the organizers of the event and asked, how did our group do? And they said they did fantastic. So that's awesome news. I'm glad that we were able to do that. And, that just, again, shows we in Milwaukee County as a Republican Party really care about getting into the community. As long as I'm involved in the county, I will ensure that all our volunteers have opportunities to go out there, network with people, get more people informed about who we are as Republicans and why it's important to understand that, the conservative values we hold as people are things that keep this country moving forward and won't bring it down or crashing down like the Democrats and their reckless policies that endanger all of us.
Right.
So I'm just so delighted that happened. And, we are, from what I hear, and anyone can debate me on this, but I got to go back and check the numbers, but I believe we are the largest county party in the entire state of Wisconsin now in membership.
How many members do you have, or do you know offhand?
I don't know offhand, but we were checking the numbers, and we just this weekend alone, we gained 10 new members. Right. I think at the picnic and then the day before combined. So that's a good sign. We're continuously signing people up at our office and getting them more involved and on our email list so that they know when things are going on. So we're just going to keep growing, and we are going to do everything we can to partner with our surrounding counties as well. If they want to work with us on stuff, they are more than welcome to. And I definitely want to grow this summer picnic to be, the place to be, the networking event for people.
I'll tell you this. It is definitely a hike for me. And but it's well worth it. I definitely want to support you and what you guys are doing down there. And of course, Milwaukee's my home. It's where I was born. It's where I was partially raised.
Where you left your long lost son.
I just kind of dropped him off. I didn't even drop him off at like the hospital or a police station. I just kind of dropped him off at like a 7-Eleven.
Must have missed this somewhere, Ed.
The joke that we have, and it was funny because when we first met, he's like, "You're like my long lost dad." He gave me up for adoption because Hilario was actually adopted. And
okay.
So it's just kind of, it's been a running joke for 2.5, almost 3 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And
probably old enough to be how old are you,
is.
Hilario?
I am 21.
He is
technically old enough to be your mom.
There we go. See, I got moms and dads all over the place. I don't even.
My daughter turns 20 in a few days. So yeah, it's like, bro, this is. Thanks for making me feel old, brother.
Ancient.
Thanks. Well, it's like my son said, "Dad, you're not old." "Oh, honey, that's so nice. You're ancient." So much.
Ed's literally a race of people from Stargate. So anyone.
Well, it's horrible because you know what he did to me later on. Old boy's like, "Dad, when you were in school, did you like it?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't not like it, but I didn't like it. It was just something you did." "Well, Dad, since you're old," right there, I'm thinking, "Oh man, here it comes."
Since you're old.
Did they teach you math with sticks and rocks? And I'm like, throw a finger up at him, and he looks at me and he stays rolling at this point, and I'm over here like, that was a good one, but I really can't bag on you for that because I did learn math with an abacus. True story. So ancient it is. Ancient it is.
Yeah, they probably need to use more of that these days, though, because I think we're losing in almost too much technology sometimes. Let's go back to the basics.
You mean like actually count?
Oh, gosh. Tracy.
Tracy, well done, sir. Well done.
That's funny.
So let me ask you this, Hilario. Obviously, I think anytime you run an event, there are things that you look at are successes. There are things that you look at as learning opportunities. When you think about what you want to do next year, without tipping your hand, what are some things that you think you might want to expand upon, improve? And like I say, if it's tipping your hand, obviously don't get into that. But when you're looking at an event for a county like Milwaukee County, and I think Milwaukee being the hot spot, the hub of Wisconsin as a whole, definitely central, southeast Wisconsin, I think it's really important to get support from all around the state at some level, which is why Jen and I talked about this yesterday. We're definitely committed to helping out. You and I have talked about it. I will promote it as much as I possibly can because I like working with other counties, and then distance really don't make me any difference, whether it's Marquette, Portage, Green Lake, Wapaka, Milwaukee, Winnebago. I'm good for all that, So, I mean, guys, what are some of the things that the lessons learned, I guess, from there?
A magician never reveals his secrets.
Hey, but you have to share as county
So-
parties trying to learn from each other. We need to
So-
learn.
a
Well,
lot-
no, and I think that's a good point because who was it here? Judith had mentioned that they're going to be doing an event like that here in August. And I
If you
believe that's
steal
the
our
Sheboygan.
concept, you have to give me personally a shout out because I blood, sweat. I don't think there were any tears, but blood and sweat.
Not yet, but that'll come later.
Maybe tears of happiness. We'll throw that in there for this event. I mean, this was, one could say, my baby. I mean, I really worked my ass off to put this together, and I had some really very supportive volunteers that would come into the office sometimes Mondays and Wednesdays every day, occasionally, to plan this out, make phone calls, figure out what are some best ways to make everyone happy. I know it's hard to make everyone happy, but one thing is when you have candidates and supporters for those candidates, obviously there's a lot of tension going on right now as we're getting close to down to the wire in this primary. So we came up with the idea that, and having gone to many events, and no offense to anyone that's a speaker or candidates that are speaking, but I don't want to sit there for an hour, 2 hours listening to people talk. I'd rather go around and would talk to people one-on-one, network. That's how I got to where I am today. By networking with people and just learning from them. I mean, there's tons of people that with a wealth of knowledge on many different topics. So that's one thing to take into consideration, especially if you ever noticed. I'm sure Stephanie, you've seen this. Ed, you've seen this. You got someone. Let's use Rebecca and Tim Michaels, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca's on the stage speaking. Her supporters are looking and watching her. Tim Michael's supporters are looking down at the ground or on their phone or having side conversations. Side conversations are fine. That's no problem. But, if everyone's looking down at the ground or at their phone, or there's people that aren't unhappy, it doesn't look good when people take pictures. Same thing with Tim Michaels. If he's up there, Rebecca's supporters will do the same, or they'll walk out the room. So we tried to ensure that we only had speakers that didn't endorse anyone. Julian Bradley was an exception. I know he's a supporter of Rebecca and Patrick Teston, but he is the state senator of that district, and he assured me that he wouldn't talk about any endorsements or anything like that, just focusing on what he's done in the legislature, and he did that, and I'm very grateful to him. He's a phenomenal speaker, and Franklin is so lucky to have him as their state senator. So I don't think people were uncomfortable. I think people had a lot of fun. Being able to move around. I know some people are like, what do we do when the band takes a break? Well, that's an idea where, if you have a band, you have speakers speaking between the breaks. And that way it still captivates the audience. It allows people to move around, and then it gives the band a break. They don't have to have this awkward silence up there. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my ideas that I'm going to change for next year and definitely take into consideration. I'm trying to think. We ran out of food, but
I heard about that.
I didn't eat. And, that's a sign of a good leader. Is that the leader eats last. Let the people eat first.
Like mom.
Yeah, like yeah.
You make the dinner and then you wait till everybody else.
See, I'd make a great mother already, but I'm not a biologist.
Let's not get woke.
But that's a perfect example. We ran out of food. I wanted to buy more, but the people that I was buying the food with, they're like, last year we had too much. This year we ran out, but enough people ate to where it was fine. We had enough drinks and sodas and waters. I mean, that was fine. We had no alcohol there because we were at a church. So I don't think Bob Donovan would have came because I know he likes to have a drink once in a while and relax, which is fine.
This is our Pints and Politics, and I'm not gonna lie, I do have me a nice tasty beverage right about now.
And see, I don't drink, so it's
that's your fault. I'm sorry.
hey, it keeps me clear and get to
You probably don't want to be
whatever
drinking
else
if you're the one that's like overseeing everything. And
Yeah, wouldn't that be bad? You got
Actually, Hilario could have he could have sat there. I wouldn't. Sat's the wrong word. Hilario would have been running around with like a pint of Jack Daniels, a fifth.
in a flash.
Hell, he could have been no. You'd be running around with a 175, this big old trough, just running all over the place. And I guarantee you, it would not have affected this young man because I'm seeing him running from like A to B to C to D. He's all over the place. He's sweating, and you can see it in his eyes. Like he's not quite panicking, but he's almost there because he's trying to make sure everything's going off. He's trying to make sure that people are happy. And it was funny because I think for most people, they had their space. They were where they needed to be. People were congregating, but of course, Hilario's got to try to make sure everybody's doing on the up and up. And it was like, all right, bro. It reminds me of when I host an event at my house. It gets kind of ridiculous. But here's the upside, though. As you get older, after the first hour, you no longer care. You're just like, you know what? Here's
I think as soon as I got in that dunk tank, I didn't care. I was like, as a matter of fact, I would have rather stayed in the dunk tank for the rest of the day doing that because I had an absolute best.
It was awesome.
Blast. And, I was probably the coolest person there. Hint, nudge, nudge. But it like after that, and I got out, I changed. I felt so relaxed. I was calm. I was happy. I was a little stressed out because people kept running up to me with last minute stuff, just like, Hilario, what do we do? And you should do this and you should do that. I'm just like, no. All right, you go take care of that. We'll deal with this.
It's kind of a given that it happens, like, because for both to the past 2 years for my Lincoln Day dinner, where it was a really big turnout and it was a little overwhelming, and you're constantly having people run up to you and tell you, this is going on. We need this. It's just kind of the nature of those kind of events where there's always something going on that needs to be dealt with. And so I'm learning myself not to, because I can get a little stressed and flustered when I'm getting pulled in all these directions. So I'm learning how to try to be calm and level-headed when all that's going on. But it's a good thing if you're dealing with all that. That means your event is like, you've got a good turnout. There's a lot going on, right? So it's just the side effect of it. But
I think my biggest fear was parking. It worked out very much so. It seemed because people parked on the side of the road. I didn't want them to park on the side of the road, but people are going to be.
Actually, they had to.
Well, we also had, and this is what we're going to take into consideration for next year. The nice thing about that location, one, it's very spacious. We have somewhat of a big parking lot, but now we know the people across the street that own the little motel that abandoned, or if they occasionally have people come living there or staying there, we can use their driveway as well because they're Republicans, and it's like, oh, thank God. I actually had one of my volunteers, Bruce, go over there and talk with them. He went over there after the event, thanked them. He was the only one that parked over there. But now we know we can use the road and even that side. So when we get, 1,000 people at next year's event,
he's not even trying to double it. He's
wow, you're like aiming like.
He's like, I'm gonna triple it
for the stars.
Hey, you know what? You got to aim high in this business because in Milwaukee
for the
County,
stars, you might hit the moon.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Forget the moon. We're going to the next galaxy. Screw it.
he's kind of treating this whole event like it's Dogecoin to the moon.
To the moon. But that's the kind of person I am. And as a county chair or county second vice chair, sorry. Head is running 100 miles a minute right now. I want to be aggressive. I want us out there in the community. I want us doing press conferences when bad things go on. I want us to be at community events. I want the news to reach out to us when they want statements, which they already have. I have connections in the media now that have reached out to me, and I'm very grateful for them. I had people at TMJ4. They have my phone number. And it stemmed back from when I worked on Donovan's campaign during the mayor's race.
Pretty awesome.
One of the few people that worked on that race. But you know, they reached out to us for statements, and you know, we're going to be working on that stuff. We're going to get it out there on a timely fashion, and we're going to make sure that people hear our side of the story and not just one-sided story from the Democrats and their people that are in the media. Because for too long they have controlled the narrative, a very false narrative, mind you that, and have had control of Milwaukee for over 115 years, which is wrong because the city is in decay right now. The roads are horrible. We are leading the nation in homicides right now. Talking with people that are in law enforcement, they can't wait to get out. And honestly, the lack of leadership within the city is devastating. And you know, I'm very glad.
The part is though, they vote for it.
That's the bad thing. You know, elections have consequences, and Milwaukee has seen that time and time again. Whether it was from many years of Barrett being mayor to now possibly Cavalier Johnson being mayor, I'm grateful that he voted to bring the RNC here. That will help for sure many small businesses that have suffered through the shutdowns that were brought by Tony Evers and Joe Biden, or not Joe Biden, but the policies that, you know, Dr. Fauci pushed for.
Right.
So with that, we're going to be present. We're going to have a statement. We're going to have a story, and people are going to know who we are as Republicans, and we're going to encourage them to come join our fight, join our movement to help ensure we elect politicians that push for policies that work.
Well, and I think, you know, it's also important to be unashamedly and conservative. And what I mean by conservative, this isn't the typical, hey, look, it's that square over there. No. Get down just the same as anyone else. You know, the difference being, of course, bad kitty, my pot. The difference being, of course, I think is that as conservatives, we need to, you know, not have to sit here and apologize for our positions, not sit here and have to apologize and be on the defensive. You know, it's kind of like with the questions with the debate. And I want to get into that topic next year because
I don't mean to cut you off, Ed, but I do have to get going. It was a very interesting debate. Sorry, my cat is going nuts. I have people here. I'm going to be a wonderful guest and
do your thing
and interact with them. So thank you for having me on. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on as well. And thank you to everyone who came out to the summer picnic. Again, we are going to be out here fighting as a county party. And you seriously did go in that dunk tank. That's funny. I swear just that idea for. Yep. That we had that dunk tank. It was a great idea. And yes, we had Dr. Fauci in there. And, you know, I may have been Dr. Fauci. You never know.
Well, you did just do the voice that was pretty close.
You know, that is very true. I did do the voice. So Thank you again. And I want to say, you know, I want to shut down the next county party event that Milwaukee County has because it's a super spreader event. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. So thank you again. And, you know, I'll let you guys get back to it. And
of course.
I'll enjoy the rest of my night. Thank you again.
Thank you, brother. Good to see you on.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Good job yesterday.
All right, guys. That was Hilario De Leon. Hilario is the second vice chair for the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. He put on a banger of an event yesterday along with the people that were helping him out. And if you guys didn't make it, man, you guys really need to. When these county parties have these type of events, help them out. I mean, even if it's a neighboring county, whatever, because it's those type of things that help them be successful. Don't just look at your county party as a silo. You know, see it as an opportunity to reach out, help, get to know folks. And even if it's not within your district, within your county, it can only help because, you know, you guys remember Planet of the Apes? Caesar's sitting here talking to the rest of the apes. You know, he's like, apes together strong. Is he wrong? Is he? Just saying. But Stephanie, how are you?
Good, good. I disappeared for a minute earlier because I wanted my son to start getting ready for bed. So he's working at it, I think. So
Yeah.
I might have to disappear for a minute. I might be okay, but if I
3
have to
hours later.
yeah, I might have to. Oh, my husband says no, it's fine. Okay. Just want to make sure my husband was on it if I wasn't. So,
Yep.
and actually, I'm gonna close the door here just a second.
Yeah, of course.
Just to keep the sound in here. So, yeah. So, anyways, it sounds like that was a good event yesterday, and you got to go and see it all firsthand.
Yes.
So, and I wish if it was closer, I would have been there. But it just there's different events and different things I have going on where depending on how much I've traveled that week or the next week, it's like I have to just figure out how much traveling I'm going to be doing or how much gas money I want to spend. So,
well, and
nowadays.
that's always a consideration because I'm driving down there. I'm like, all right, $3.99. That's still brutal. And
It's better than $5.
yeah, it's
Or
better than
doable.
$5, but I mean,
But
it's still
still,
like
it's-
up over 50%.
It's still
And
a lot.
what's even worse too is like if everyone's like, and I think it's funny, people are like, yeah, gas is down 60 cents. It's like, have you seen diesel? No, it hasn't changed.
And that's going to affect. I mean, a lot of things are delivered by diesel trucks.
Well, dig this. So when we stopped at Arby's before we decided to go, jump into a typhoon, we stopped at Arby's and wife got some food. I got some food. The boy got some food. $28
for at Arby's.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm over here like, they say like when you find out how the sauce is made, how the sausage is made, or the secret sauce or anything like that, I know how that's made. And it's like I only ate because I was hungry, not because it's like, have you seen how the roast beef is made? Yes, I have. And it's why I don't generally go to fast food joints.
Sure.
So yeah, great. I got to spend $28 on 3 meals. Just
yeah,
fantastic.
That's about what it costs now if you go to like Culver's.
Oh yeah.
It's probably, I mean, I feel like the lowest maybe we'd spend somewhere is for like 3 people for my son and myself, my husband would be like $23 maybe.
Yep.
Because my son can still get a kid's meal where that's around $6 these days, depending where you go. But yeah, it's like probably $8.
Well, so
or
much for that.
$9 for a meal for an adult,
Right. And so much for that value meal anymore. It's like, yeah, how'd that $15 an hour work out for you guys?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I keep wondering when the dollar store is going to be like, are things still $1 there? Or
they are not. Dollar Tree is $1.25 now.
See, I mean, are they going to have to change the store name or?
I was wondering. Well, apparently, what they're doing now is they're converting them all into what they call C stores, and they're Dollar Tree / Family Dollars, so they can kind of get away with weird stuff. And it's like the weirdest amalgamation of it. And I'm just kind of like, what is this? I don't know anymore. I don't even pretend to work here. It's just whatever. But
I imagine they can still sell the idea of things are cheap here. I mean,
right.
If it's not $1 anymore, you can still get stuff cheaper there than some other places. So,
but here's what people get twisted though. Well, it's only 25 cents. Yes, I get it. It's only 25 cents, but that was $1. So that means it's a 25% increase. And I understand it's only 25 cents, but 25 cents here, 25 cents there.
Yeah, it all adds up over time. So
as I say, it's only $3.99.
Yeah. Well,
$3.99 when I fill up my tank 3 times a week is a lot of money.
Right. It's not just a one-time thing. I mean, you constantly need to be replenishing things. So whether it's food or gas or clothes or whatever it is, household items, you're constantly having to buy more. So you're always going to it's going to add up over time. And,
Well, I think this is a good segue as we're talking about the economy to go into the gubernatorial debate that happened today at the Marquette University campus. It was at 6:00. It was an hour. I'm very reluctant to call it a debate because I don't think it was. It was more of a Q&A type thing.
It felt like that. It did.
Is that what you got out of it?
Yeah, because I feel like it was more, what's interesting with the questions that were asked, there were some questions that were the same question for all of them, but then I noticed they were more specific with each candidate, where they kind of gave them different questions within the subject or the issue. And so it kind of led itself to just be a one-on-one back and forth that way. So it did feel more like a Q&A session, which it could be helpful in some ways, obviously, but I also thought the moderators were definitely kind of leading with some of their questions or framing the question in a certain way that I'm like, well, they're trying to frame it in a negative way, like off the bat. It's a negative tone about the issue, like, where do you stand on this? And
where do you stand on abortion? Yes or no? And it's like, I don't know. I was like, not tweeting, but just posting stuff on Facebook
I read through some of your stuff you posted. So,
oh my God, don't ever let me go on a debate stage. It's like, are you serious? Is that the kind of, are you asking me? Really? Because this is bull. Like they would have to literally have me on censor. I mean, I couldn't do it.
They were definitely more, it wasn't horrible in a sense. Like, it wasn't like, Chris, what's his name? Chris Wallace. Like when Chris Wallace did the moderating for one of the presidential debates, I was like, oh my gosh, that was horrible. Like it was, and he didn't used to be quite that bad, but he was like actively, aggressively against Trump. Yeah. And I didn't feel like they were necessarily aggressive, but the questions were kind of leading. I mean, they were kind of, looking to frame the question in a negative way when they asked the candidate. So what were your thoughts off the top of your head with
overall?
I
don't think anybody really lost. I don't think anybody really broke out. If I had to call them, up and down the middle, which is where I generally try to be at with this. You look at say Tim Rantham, for example. Tim Rantham what he needed to do at this debate was he needed to not shoot himself in the foot, and he didn't do that. All he needed to do was survive this debate without looking, without being trivialized, minimized, or anything else like that. And I think he did that. So if that's the criteria for who won the debate, it would be him. I don't think any candidate did much to really hurt themselves. I don't think anybody did anything to break out. I think, it's interesting because Tim Michaels, on a couple of occasions, he gave non-answer answers. He didn't know what DACA was. And it's kind of weird because I think for Michaels, and mind you, I'm not pulling for one person or another at this point. We still have literally 16 days. Anything can happen. But I feel like the standard is so low for Michaels at this point that the answer, well, I need to look into it, is almost acceptable. And you can clearly tell he didn't know what DACA was when they asked the question about, the dreamers and that type of thing. And it was like, really? And this is going to get a pass. Everyone's going to give this a pass. Guarantee it.
Yeah, what's interesting is because I looked at all the comments I was looking at Jessica McBride's post, and I was looking at other people's posts to see the conversation of the back and forth. And you definitely have some people who are very much behind their candidates who, I felt like were very biased and just they didn't want to hear any criticism whatsoever of their candidate. Now, I purposely watched the debate trying to act like I had never seen these people before. I tried to pretend I didn't know them personally or know anything about them. And I was
try as you may, right?
Yeah, just seeing them for the first time. How did I feel? Was their demeanor? Did I feel like they connected with people? Did I feel like they answered the questions well? Have a good handle on the issues? And I feel like, I feel like Rantham came across more. I use the word warm, but just like,
Yes,
thoughtful, down to earth kind of guy,
he
regular
has a
guy.
very good. I think he has a very good tone. You
Yeah,
know,
he had a good
and
tone.
his
Yep.
cadence is really, really good.
Yeah, I felt like he did a good job overall with the issues and sounding like he knew what he was talking about. And he came across as competent and capable
Hmm.
and like down to earth. I thought Rebecca had a really good handle of the issues overall.
Yeah,
Um, she definitely, I thought she gave some really good answers for CRT, and I don't know. I mean, there were a few others that I thought, okay, she was very detailed on some things.
yep,
Um, I did mention this to somebody else on a post, and they got really upset at me because I like Rebecca, but I'm
right,
trying very hard to be unbiased. Like I'm
yep,
trying to be like, okay, because I hear a lot of things too about all the different candidates, like from just regular people and then people who are very
hmm,
engaged. So I take all of that in, and I go, okay, this is how some people perceive things. And this is, who maybe are trying to make up their minds. They're not for one candidate or another. So
right.
I think sometimes Rebecca, and she's really warm and down to earth when you're talking one-on-one with her. And when she's at a table with people, and she's very relatable, very personal like that. I think when she's up on stage sometimes, um, she's very, she has a good handle on the issues, obviously. I feel like she um, needs to connect a little more on a personal level in an authentic, down to earth,
Mhm.
warm way. I don't know if that even makes sense to some people, but
It
that's just how I.
does. And I think what we're seeing here is her years of media training as a
Mhm.
news personality. And I think it's kind of a weird paradox because here we are looking at someone like Rebecca Clayfish, and she's being criticized literally for professionalism.
Sure.
That is
Yeah.
really weird.
And I think because of the political climate with people want somebody who's like relatable down to earth. I think like I think I told you this when you did your interview with her, I thought
Yes.
that was one of the best I've seen her with you.
Absolutely amazing.
She was
Yes.
just totally like no pretenses, no just answering questions sincerely and she may be sincere at other times, but just she came across as very sincere,
Hmm.
not not rehearsed or like she's, giving the answers, the political answers. So
Right.
I feel like there are times where she can really come across well like that. But just from what I hear from different people, that could be an area she could improve in. I
Hmm.
feel like Michael's, I do think I'm a little concerned if he became the candidate that I feel like he needs to have a little better handle on the issues. And part of it is because he hasn't run for office much. If he ran once, I think, back in
2004.
2004. Yep. So he's run once before, but that was many years ago. In fact, that was almost 20, that was 18 years ago, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Which is crazy to think, but that's how long ago it was. So he's not a natural as far as like, you can just tell it's not natural for him to be in campaign mode, to be debating. He's not like natural at debating. And I think
There were
he's,
definitely things that were wanting, but I don't know if it was enough to hurt him.
yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, I read some of the comments. Some people were saying they were, not sure, but then they moved away from Michaels a little bit.
Mhm.
I think my concern is if he became the nominee, during debates against Evers, how would he do? Would he come across as having a sincere, good handle on the issues? I do think he answered some of the questions more specifically. Like there were a few answers that I thought he actually did well with, but then there was a few others where I go, oh, he kind of struggled there. He
Right.
kind of struggled. So I feel like he did well in some places, and then other places there was, it was lacking a little bit. So I feel like again, because he's not in this, he hasn't run for office much. Only one other time a long time ago. It's not maybe his strength maybe isn't campaigning. It's kind of like when people run for like Supreme Court or something or state Supreme Court. Like we've had candidates that maybe would have been good judges, but candidacy they weren't like strong as a
Right.
campaigner. It just wasn't, it's just not something that they were, incredibly gifted at. So I think, and I, if he became the nominee, I will totally do everything I can to help him and all that. So I just think that's an area that's one of his weaknesses.
Well, and I think that's really important to point out, because as we're breaking this debate down, I want to make sure that it's known that, I'm not here to shred anybody, because regardless of who wins this, I'm going to be your biggest advocate,
Right.
but there are questions, I think, and every candidate has them, that need to
Sure.
be dealt with. So let me read something real quick here. I have it shared up on the screen. Mike Arjeda, he hosts a podcast. He's up in the Eau Claire area, and he hosts a podcast called Mike's Always Right.
Okay.
And he had, I think, a really good insight into this here, because he mentioned that people of Wisconsin who watch a television debate with the three gubernatorial candidates take a deep breath, take a walk, and simmer down. You heard what you wanted to hear from your preferred candidate. The candidates who, in your opinion, did poorly were always going to do poorly in your eyes. And you saw that from the Rantham people. You saw that from the Clayfish people. You saw that from the Michaels people. And, all of them are going to say that they're pick one.
Yeah.
You're biased, and that's okay. But the rhetorical online, the rhetoric online is beyond hilarious, and it is actually comical.
Yeah.
You do know this means absolutely nothing until we get to August 9th. And then all of you again will hear and see what you always wanted to hear and see. Those are facts.
Well, I made the point to somebody on, I don't remember whose page it was. And all I did was, and I said, I like Rebecca, and I actually overall support a lot of the things that she's done and is doing. And I think she's a good person and all that. So,
yes.
But so it has nothing to do with my personal feelings. I just was making the critique. Hey, Tracy. I was just pointing out that I felt I think because she's a fighter, feisty fighter, because I'm like that too sometimes. I can be feisty and be like, hey, don't mess with me kind of attitude,
Yeah.
And that's that can be a strength, but then also I feel like you want to try to balance that with a little finesse, a little warmth. I don't know if that makes sense, but so that was just something I said. And then some guy got all mad at me, and I'm like, well, hold on, because they thought I was being too critical or what. I'm like, I like her. I'm not saying, I said, I'm trying really hard to be unbiased. I was purposely watching, pretending I didn't care about any of the candidates. And because so often our bias can shape how we see things. It's kind of like when you have rose colored glasses on, or if you're always fatalistic, you're always going to see the negative,
Right.
So if we could just try, because if I was going to consult the different candidates, I would suggest, if they were willing to listen, I would have suggestions for all of them, not because I am, necessarily the end all be all of everything, but I on campaigns, but it's just based on all the things I'm hearing from different people. There's kind of a general feeling about this candidate, a general feeling about that candidate. And there's strengths and weaknesses for different candidates. So if we could, if all the candidates could just be humble and say, okay, where do I need to improve? This is what I'm hearing about. Are you saying goodnight, buddy? It's in the sink, honey. Sorry. My son's asking for his thermos. So anyways, but yeah, you have to, I think as a candidate, you have to be, it's good to be confident, but you also have to be humble and say, okay, where can I improve so that when the general comes, if I do win, when the general comes, I can be as ready as possible and as sharp and as improved as possible. And that's why, primaries can definitely be beneficial if you approach it the right way, because then you're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to hopefully get better over time. You're going to sharpen your arguments. You're going to figure out where do I need to improve, and then you'll be more ready for when you're going up against the Democrat. So, but
I think to the reverse of that, though, Jessica McBride had put a post out a couple of days ago, and I think she nailed it when she said primaries are where enemies are made.
Hmm.
And boy, have I seen it during this election cycle,
That's
especially
true.
amongst the supporters.
Oh,
I mean, there are people,
absolutely.
I've got several people that have blocked me, and it was like, oh no, oh, you blocked me. What am I going to do without your friendship? I mean, because everybody knows I get my validation in my existence from social media, but oh no, you're not going to talk to me no more. Oh, whatever.
You're crushed,
Well,
right, Ed? You're
I
crushed.
am I am just beyond crushed. Let's welcome to the show here, Tracy Stefanski. Tracy out of the West
Tracy.
Dallas area. Tracy, how are you tonight?
Good. How you guys doing? Been listening since the beginning.
Well,
I,
that's your
I,
fault, man. I'm sorry.
I have to agree. I don't think there was a real winner here tonight. I think they all had good points and
Yeah.
on certain things, and I also think they all had a weakness
Mm-hmm.
tonight.
Yep.
So the whole thing in general, whoever wins the primary, you better support the winner, because we cannot get another Democrat in the governor house. You can't.
Oh, another 4 years of
Right.
Evers.
Oh my gosh,
hell
we
no.
You
can't.
could have another Kenosha, and people
Oh.
could die. I mean,
Well, considering
either way.
24 is around the corner,
Got it.
it's almost guaranteed we will.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be
And
black pill, but let's be real too.
I'm personally, like you said, Ed, I'm tired of the crap going on from whoever you support. I don't
Mhm.
care whoever you
Yeah.
support. If you support that person, fine. Support that person, but don't bash me for supporting who I want to support. Just
Right.
like I'm
Well,
not
you
going to
can-
bash you for who you want to support.
Yeah.
But when we all get done with the primary, whoever's the winner, you better support them, because
You back
otherwise
'em.
you're not a conservative. You don't belong here at all.
Right.
Well,
Well,
you don't have to
and
get.
oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I'm sorry. I was just thinking along those lines how you don't have to. I feel like you don't have to get nasty to disagree. You can
Correct.
disagree with the Oh, sorry. Just a second.
That's quite all right.
Okay. Good night, buddy. Love you. Sorry. So you don't have to get nasty if you want to make a valid point about a certain candidate. Can you guys hold on just a second?
That's
Sure.
quite all right.
You guys continue discussing,
Okay.
and then I'll be right back. Okay. I'll be right back.
So there was a couple things here, a couple statements, and statements I have made commentary on. And Chris Mile here, he brings it up, and he brought it up also in the responses. And I think, we definitely want to address this, because here's an issue that I've heard for years, and obviously it's covering us all here right now. But you mentioned, Ed, I'd like to hear your thoughts and viewpoints on not running a state like a business, and the decertification path means we lose the Democrats. Please elaborate. Too many shenanigans happen and go unanswered. They run, and what they want, when they want, how they want. We're supposed to just let this happen. Everything goes unanswered. Spend as much time as we want, how we want. It's been nothing but BS from the left. We need to turn the cheek here. What happens when they take and cut off here at this point? But I want to address the first thing here, the idea of running government like a business. And here's where I think there's issues with that. Trump tried to do the same thing. And I think for a lot of us on the right, we've always talked about that for quite some time. We want to have somebody, a successful business person who can run, government like a business. Here's the problem. Government isn't a business. You can't run government as a business. As a matter of fact, I think that was one of Trump's biggest issues on the onset, was he learned very quickly he can't run government like a business. When you're running a business, and let's say you're the CEO like Trump was, for example, it's like word comes from God to Trump to everyone else. So when Trump spoke, you made things happen, point blank, end of story. If you didn't do it, you got fired. It doesn't work like that with government. Now you're dealing with civil servants, lifetime appointments. You're dealing with people that are going to be in office forever. There's bureaucracy, there's red tape. And yes, is it all nonsense? It is. But it's realistic. And I think that's why we can't run government like you would run a business. How you would run a business is going to be vastly different from how you run government. Stacey, what's your thoughts on that?
You mean Tracy?
Tracy, I'm sorry.
So
it's been, it's been a long weekend, man.
well, first of all, I wanted to wear my hat yesterday to the picnic.
Let's see, we
I
can't read
want
it here.
reparations from every moron that voted for Biden,
God, I'll settle for gas money.
but I couldn't make it. But you can put some business elements into running government.
Hmm.
I agree with you. I don't think you can run government as a business completely, but I still think there's things you can bring in as a business person that you can use to run the government.
Right.
Like you said, you've got all this red tape, all this bureaucracy between the parties and, the departments and all this. I mean, I can't believe some of the garbage that we see day in and day out.
Well, you would imagine you would see it firsthand as an alderman within the city of West Dallas.
Well, you see that red tape and garbage and stuff like that too. I have a special way of being able to sometimes cut through that red tape, but that's part of my.
I'd love to know more.
That's part of my. I don't put up with garbage, and I'm pretty forceful when it comes to it because you need to intimidate sometimes to get the right things done.
Right.
But you got to do it with respect as well, which, that's a given. But you've got to let people know that you mean business and you're not going to stand by until something's accomplished right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you have to handle it. So that was part of my thing with Michaels tonight. He kept, talking about being a business person and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. You're a business person. You've, created a successful business. You got 8,000 employees. That's cool.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean you can bring all that expertise into a government position.
Right.
Rebecca, constantly going on about the stuff that she did when she was lieutenant governor. That's great. That's your experience. Now bring it forward and tell me what you're going to do going forward as the governor. Rantham had some really good zingers there tonight. I thought they were pretty good. And, he's got some good points about him. So any one of the three, I would be happy to get behind once the primary is done. Because any one of them is better than what we have now.
And I would agree that, any of the three is definitely better than what we have now. But I think, when I look at, say, Rantham, for example, because one of Chris's questions was, when I made the statement that decertification is a path to losing this election, is that this idea that we can decertify this election, to me, it is nonsense. Where there are shenanigans, whereas there, voter fraud, unquestionably. Yep. But was it to the level of which, it would have turned the election? I would argue.
You froze, buddy.
To use, short little analogies. Yeah. The idea that where there is smoke, there's fire generally rings true. The problem is that not all the time where there's smoke is there fire. It's just smoke.
Yeah.
And the issue now is that, you can sit here and claim 21 mules or 2,000 mules or 4,000, whatever the number is here, whatever Dinesh D'Souza is making money on. The fact of the matter is that, okay, he made a documentary and he threw stuff out. There's a lot of questions that's still associated with that, but nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to, and my thought process is, okay, you have all this evidence, then why aren't you just presenting it out there? Why aren't we seeing arrests? Why aren't we seeing things happen? And I think when you hit the average person, the average voter, with this idea that we can somehow decertify this election, you're treading on some very dangerous territory. Do not think for one moment that the Biden administration wouldn't, put the hammer down and utilize the Insurrection Act and start arresting people in mass because you're going to, quote unquote, unseat a duly elected president. And what I'd like to see is an actual forensic audit The issue, of course, here becomes is, well, why are the Democrats pushing so hard against that? If it were me, I'd be like, fine, have your audit. I want you to know how bad I kind of smacked you down.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my approach on that.
I
And
agree with
I
you.
think that what happens is that we are so fractured, so schismed as a nation that if anybody tries to pull this, well, you're not legitimately elected, and I do have my questions, I really, really do. But it's not enough to say, okay, do you think Biden's actually going to give up the nuclear codes? Do you think they're actually going to walk out? Or do you think we're just going to go full blown civil war? And guess what? This time around, there is no Mason-Dixon line. So what, you know, you go into very dangerous territory. That's my thought process. What do you guys think?
I don't think we should be focused on the decertifying either. What I do think we should be focusing on is making sure that the election is legitimate anytime after what happened. Because what are you going to do? Like you said, by the time all the evidence comes out, Biden could be out of office already anyways.
Right.
Okay. So stop with the decertifying. Just find out where the voter fraud was. And do I believe that there was enough votes that were cheated on in this state to overturn the election in Wisconsin? Absolutely. I absolutely believe it. Everything that I've seen so far is by far Trump should have won this state, period.
I think so
can we
too.
decertify it? I don't think we can. I think we should stop going backwards and worrying about decertifying it. Keep the investigations going, find out what was wrong, arrest the people who need to be arrested, and if it has to be hundreds of people, then throw their butts in jail. I don't care.
Well, and that's why I think the importance of the Attorney General's race becomes that much more important, because you're not going to get that under Josh Call. And I think when we take a look at the AG's race, you know, I would almost argue that the AG's race is almost, if not more important than the governor's race, because that's the individual who's going to make the determination on whether these things are prosecuted or not on a statewide basis. So, you know, we can sit here and demand that we decertify now, which I've seen people do, and it's like, clearly you don't know how government works. Or you can get the seats of power and then make that happen. Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think, number one, I do feel, and I mentioned this before, very suspicious and uncomfortable with how things happened in 2020, to the point where, I mean, how many ways did the Democrats try to get around following the laws? You know, they had somebody come in from New York City, a Democrat operative, to try to run the elections within the 5 different Democrat controlled cities with the mayors and the clerks, except for Green Bay. Green Bay had a city clerk that was not wanting to go along with this, but facilitate our elections. This Michael Rubenstein had a key. This is a fact. We know from emails that he had the key to where the ballots were stored for the mail-in ballots. You know, there was just a lot of unsecured. There was things that were not secured for our election. The laws weren't followed. You take away voter ID for indefinitely confined, and if somebody had access to the voter rolls with mail-in voting, and if you know that people, you know, shouldn't, like if they moved or if they died, whatever, you can use those names. And then once those ballots are cast, you don't know what ballots were legitimately cast by real people and what were just, you know, names off the voter rolls. I mean, and it's hard to know. I mean, it's, yeah, of course, we'll never really know for sure exactly what happened there. But you know, there were so many shenanigans from the Democrats. I just don't feel comfortable that what the result was the actual result. Now, having said that, I always try to be realistic, and also I do want to follow the Constitution. There's a debate on both sides about what's constitutional, what's not, or if decertification is constitutional. I don't see the clear language for it. I
don't even see the implied language in it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're using that the state legislature gets to decide the manner in which elections are run.
But do you realize how dangerous this is? And this is
Oh,
what,
no, I
what Robin
agree
Voss's point was.
yeah.
And we were at that meeting in Plover. And, you know, it was weird because it's like, okay, so you want the legislature to go ahead and decertify. So what happens if, let's say, for example, you know, we have a Democrat controlled legislature and they don't like the Republican. They don't even need a reason, because Democrats don't need reasons for anything. I mean, we all know that.
Right.
You
They'll
know,
just
it's like,
abuse their power no matter what.
yeah, it's like, you know, well,
They
we
don't
just don't
care.
like him. He's a racist. He's black.
We're gonna sick the FBI on them and raid their house in the middle of the night for being a Trump supporter.
Right. It was like he was a black Trump supporter, so that automatically that makes him racist. It was like, what world are you living in?
Because he was supported Trump. I mean,
His name is Clayton Bigsby. That's Dave Chappelle character. Come on now.
yeah, I mean, they would use any opportunity to try to overturn anything. I think there's a legitimate process to try to challenge things, of course, that is very obvious and in the law.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of ambiguity where I don't, you know, when people say it's clear that this Constitution says they have this authority, I just don't see where it's so clear. I think I just don't see where they're coming from on that. But I understand why some people want it done, but I feel like at this point, we're almost 2 years in. And like you said, Ed, I always ask myself, what practically speaking, okay, step by step, what would that look like if you decertified and what would actually happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would the point of it be? Like, if you're really looking for Trump to get back in that way, well, you really, I just don't see how the Democrats and the people with the power in DC would allow that.
Right.
I mean, you know, I don't see the realistic way, even if I did believe it was constitutional. Like, if I believed it was very clear, I don't understand how that would work, you know? So anyways, I think we can certainly focus on election integrity, and a lot of county parties, and myself included, have worked really hard to try to get to the bottom of everything, to try to support, you know, different organizations and people and individuals who are trying to fix things, to find out what really happened, to fix things, to address things, to hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the problem is if you don't have an attorney general, or if you don't have DAs who are willing to go after people. In fact, Eric Toney has prosecuted voter fraud cases in his county as a DA.
He just did one recently.
Right. So that person voted in a county that they didn't live in. And so we need DAs to do their jobs. I mean, the Justice Department and the, you know, the district attorneys and the law enforcement, you know, I mean, the legislature can only do so much as far as like, I mean, they can't prosecute people, just like the Congress can't prosecute people. Because I hear people get frustrated about, you know, Republicans in Congress, which there is a time to be frustrated with them, because
Right.
I don't always agree with when they go along with things with Democrats. I mean, some of them, not all of them, but some of them enough sometimes go along with what the Democrats are proposing. So I get that, but Congress does not have the authority to prosecute anybody. They can investigate, they can refer things to the Justice Department, to the FBI, whatever, but they don't have that ability. So I think sometimes people get frustrated, but then they're not always looking at things realistically as far as the process of how things are, you know, addressed, you know, who can do what, basically. So not to go on and on about that, but I think we can definitely focus on election integrity. And I think in 2020, it was the perfect storm with COVID.
Yes,
and
it was.
people were afraid, so they could take advantage of people more being afraid. A lot of people are done now with COVID, and they're tired of the fear mongering, and they've woken up to what's really going on. And not everybody, of course. Some people are still living in fear, wearing masks wherever they go.
Still seeing them out there.
Yeah, they're, you know, I mean, I saw a kid, he's, you know, outside wearing a mask, and I was like, it just kind of made me sad, unless he's got allergies and he's just like.
I saw somebody going through a drive-through wearing a mask.
Oh.
And they're the only one in the car, and it's like,
oh no,
it's like, really, this is what you're doing, huh?
Some people are just so in fear about it. But okay.
I get a kick out of the ones who wear the mask and they keep it under their nose, so their nose is still exposed.
Well,
It's
at least they're not
useless.
coughing on people.
Yeah, it's
No,
useless.
actually, I almost like, for me, I was like, hey, if I can just wear it below my nose and I can breathe better, I just won't, I'll protect you from not coughing on you. I just want
Right.
to be able to breathe. You know?
I
So if
wanna-
I had to wear a mask, I'd be like, okay, can I just not cover my
So
whole
I will
face?
tell you guys, at least in West Dallas, we never had any drop boxes here except one. Okay.
Mhm.
And it's a box that's attached to City Hall. And people can put their electric bill or their water bills or whatever in this box. And they could drop the ballot, which went right into City Hall in. Okay.
Okay.
But when the ruling came down, they put a big sign on it the next morning. It says ballots are no longer allowed to be put in here.
Wow, that's
If you
good.
put them in there, your ballot will not be counted unless you come to us. I think it was something about if you came to the city and said, I put it in here, and then you had to take it and hand it to somebody in City Hall. But they will not accept ballots put in that ballot box or that drop box at all. They have to be brought in person by the person
Yep.
who is turning in that absentee ballot.
Good.
So
Well, and that's, we've made a lot of progress in a lot of ways. We have a lot of poll workers that the Republican Party, was working hard to find people for all the counties. And some of the counties are a bigger deal than others. Obviously, Madison and Milwaukee, or Dane County, and then Milwaukee County. And then, of course, in those places where the Zuckerberg money was spent, Racine,
Yep.
Kenosha.
The 5
and
major
Rich Bay.
cities there.
Right. You need to, have people there overseeing the process that are part of it, facilitating the process, not just because poll watchers can be good, but poll workers who actually are responsible and have the legal authority to handle those ballots and to process them are, I would say more important because they have a real, they have the authority to handle those ballots themselves. So we've done a lot with, and then of course, obviously the laws that were passed the bills that were passed by the legislature and of course vetoed by the governor, those, would be ready to go once, if we can get a Republican governor, but realistically, Evers is not going to sign those. But we've had lawsuits. We've had a lot of lawsuits.
That's 20 pages worth.
Right. I mean, Ed, you remember being at that? I don't know if Tracy, were you at the Clover meeting where?
No, I don't think. Yeah.
no, I wasn't.
Okay, so we got like a pack of, it was like maybe even 30 pages, but it was of all the different things that the legislature had done, and it was whether it was lawsuits or proposed bills or bills that had been voted on, whatever. It was a lot of just the actions that were taken concerning election integrity. Besides that, the party filed lawsuits. The party, did several things to try to hold people and even WEC accountable, which obviously we know WEC is just, Wisconsin Elections Commission definitely needs to either go or be reformed. But it seems like, at this point, I've been getting frustrated just the past few weeks or months with WEC because it seems like they're still trying to do certain things that, trying to get around some things. So anyways, wasn't it the Democrat, was it, what's her name? It was the one that was the chair before, Ann Jacobs or something. She was saying, oh, it's going to be hard to follow the law concerning drop boxes this close to an election.
Right.
How do we explain and give the directions on this now that court decision came down? And she was I was like, you follow the law and you tell clerks that they can't use drop boxes. How hard is that?
Well, it's kind of like when somebody said, when do we start following the law again? And I think that's the issue. When we take a look at everything that had happened in 2020, it literally was the perfect storm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that because what it means is acknowledging that you had more people voting against Trump than you had voting for him. They didn't really vote for Biden. They voted against Trump is what ended up happening. You take a look at what happened with the drop boxes. You look at what voting in the park. You look at that ballot harvesting. You look what happened in Pennsylvania. Republicans passed a law, for mail-in voting. and which was later struck down as unconstitutional. It was in a lot of ways Trump was Ocean's 11. And of course, during COVID, the entire summer, Orange Man Bad, the body count was constantly being streamed. You had no news, you had no music, you had nothing other than the news. And then we look at, it's just politics has become pop culture, which is why more people got involved in it. But the problem is that you have more first-time voters here in 2020 than you ever had in the past. I personally think it was the perfect storm. Do I think there were shenanigans? I do, because it's really hard to believe that. But you know what? It's also hard to believe that we had the entire nation shut down for several months, but yet it happened. So let's welcome on to the show here, Brother Orlando Owens. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Hey, Orlando.
I'm good, man. Here eating on a hotel room eating.
Are you home now, Orlando?
Still on the road.
You're on the road.
Shout out to Orlando Owens because he was at the picnic yesterday, and then he made his way all the way up to St. Croix County, that long drive, and he had a fundraiser this afternoon, and that was over at up in St. Croix as well. He had, what's his name, Trey
Taylor.
Trey Taylor, country singer. He was up there. They had a concert. How did that all go for you?
Man, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed myself. Trey is definitely a talent. And for those who came out, thank you so much. For those who gave, thank you. But you can still keep giving because we need some more help.
Orlando, are you turning into a country music fan?
You know what? So my grandma, believe it or not, my grandma was a country music fan. She loved Dolly Parton and she loved Johnny Cash. And
Man in Black.
I asked her a question. I'm like, why do you like country music? It's nothing. It ain't nothing. So I've always had a respect for country music. Yeah, I do.
It tells a story.
Good to hear, man.
So I see you guys talking going in. I missed the debate, so I'm trying to take in all the feedback because I'm seeing stuff on my feed. Like, so what happened? Who won? Who lost? Who took the first shot? Who buckled?
Rebecca took the first shot at Michaels, and nobody won.
Nobody won. Okay.
I think if you're going to say anybody won, it was Rantham. Rantham needed to survive. That's all he needed to do. He needed to not. So? I think he needed to not be trivialized, and I think he held his own. His tone, his pitch, his cadence was really good, and he didn't come out of this looking bad. And really, at the end of the day, that's what he needed to do. He needed to legitimize his spot in the top three as a viable candidate. Like he said, the Marquette University poll had 35+% of people that were undecided. To him, those are Rantham supporters. Those are Rantham voters. So it's like, okay, man, he put enough in there where it's like, you know what? Don't count me out yet. And even talking to him yesterday, don't count me out. And you know what? I got to have respect for that because that's kind of where he's at. And I know he's got a groundswell of support. So, just because the other two have a lot of money, again, we've seen a lot of anomalies that have happened over the last several years. Not completely unheard of that something like that could happen. Michaels, I think, definitely took some hits with some of the stuff that he said, and not acknowledging what DACA was. And, and I think, like I said, I think the bar set so low for Michaels at this point that him saying, I need to look at that before I say anything for something he should know. Not
cool. Know about DACA?
Right. Okay. And I think for Clayfish, she came out right out the gate. There was that comment right there. Let's pull this up here. It was kind of savage. I ain't gonna lie.
You got slide and play-by-play already as you go on the live feeds and stuff. Okay.
I don't have the live feeds, but it was, man, I was doing some stuff, and it was funny because she's like, yeah, I want to thank Tim for actually being here,
for showing up,
for showing up this time.
Well, now,
but here,
bow.
Let me present this to you here. I've talked about this in the past, and I'm not going to actually use the words. I'll just use the acronym. There is something called coming from a position of FU. Use your adult hats. You know what FU means. And I think what Michaels did during that debate up in Green Bay a couple of weeks back, he was literally coming from that position. Because what did he do? He didn't show up. He didn't even respond. He held his own event in Lomira. And it was like, wow. He totally avoided a trap. And from a strategic and tactical point of view, it was the smartest thing he could do. Marquette University poll had him up 27, Clayfish 26. And he took that 1 point and completely acted like he was at the forefront. And it was funny because a lot of people were saying, well, he's a coward. He's not. It's like, no, he's taking the position that you're afraid to. He took that 1% and he ran with it for all it was worth. And why would you go to a debate like that with a moderator like Joe Gigante, like him, not like him, whatever, but you know you're not going to get friendly questions from him in terms of not softball, but he has an agenda he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But if you know that, why would you walk into that knowing that you could possibly walk into a gaffe, knowing that you could possibly walk into something you said being taken out of context? Nah. The Marquette debate, he had to show up to that. I think everybody had to show up for that. That one a few weeks ago.
But look at
if I was advising you, I would have told you not to go.
But look at the moderators that they had there tonight. They're both in Channel 4 people. I mean, they're
sure.
totally liberal slant, you know.
Although they
want to be fair,
treated...
have somebody from, both sides of the spectrum be on the panel.
I think as far as so to Ed's point, I think, and I know this for a fact that, and maybe it's like public knowledge, but I know from talking to Joe that he has real problems with Michaels and he just does not like him. So not to say he's been hard on Rebecca and, and then other candidates in other races, whatever. But I think he particularly has a major problem with Michaels. And so I think if you're comparing, Michaels and the other candidates going to that debate with Joe Gigante, Michaels probably knew that he was going to be more of
he's a target.
Yeah, more of a target in that setting, where tonight all the candidates were kind of, the moderators were more liberal, you could tell, or it seemed like they were at least. And, so all the candidates were kind of treated the same in that sense. So maybe it was, a smart play to not go to that debate. I don't know. I mean, some people were, at first I thought well, gosh, he should have gone to that. But then Ed made that point shortly after that. I think Ed, you mentioned that, and I go, well, that's actually a good point. I think that's a valid point. That could have been a strategic move. So, and apparently the polling, I don't think he didn't take a hit really from not going to that debate,
But here, let me throw this at you here. Let me throw this real quick too. There's coming from a position of FU, and then there's straight up FU. Because
what about the position of he had to lead? He had to lead. Which he needs to build on that lead and to prepare for the eventual debate. Yep. There may not be any more besides tonight, and you would have hoped the performance would have met the preparation.
Right.
If you're going to not go, you definitely have to come out in the next debate, which was this one, really hitting on all cylinders. I'm not ducking anybody or whatever, but be prepared to really have a great showing. If in the end Rebecca was able to pull that 26-27, now it's back 27-27,
right.
and Raffin may have moved up a little bit. I don't know. I guess you can't. Eventually, you got to take on a title fight. You can't take on all the practice competition. Eventually, you're going to have to take on And if you're not prepared, and now this is somebody I hadn't watched the debate yet. I'm just reading commentary, reading like what happened, and then Rebecca came out with the bing, 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 bing. I hope Michael was ready to come out with bing, 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 bing. I'm ready too.
But what we had here tonight, though, was not necessarily a debate. It was more of a Q&A. I think what we're going to see come Wednesday when Dan O'Donnell does his debate on WISN 1130, that's going to be an actual debate. I think that's going to be what we're going to really want to be listening in and tuning in on. Yeah. Because really, this debate was run the same way the lieutenant governor's debate last week was done. It was, you have a minute to answer this question. If you bring up somebody's name, they got 30 seconds to respond. And it was just kind of.
Well, I don't think Dan is not going to be any different. That's how he ran his debate the first time with the AGs, that he may have had some questions that were directed toward a particular candidate based on a particular issue and a statement, but it was the same debate. I mean, same rules. Everybody had a chance to respond, and if you brought up somebody else's name, you say, "Okay, I'm going to give him 1 minute to respond to what you just said because you just called him out." So and so, you have a minute to respond to,
Yeah,
I just feel Dan O'Donnell did a better job with that AG's debate. I mean, it just.
Yeah. I think what you're
Tracy, go ahead.
I think what the thing is, with the debate tonight, I think both Tims did not seem completely prepared. And if they were going up against Evers, he would have beat the crap out of them tonight.
I think actually Rantham did better than not better than I expected, but I thought he did better than Tim Michaels in the sense that I felt like his answers were more complete. That doesn't mean, I do think there was moments where I thought Michaels actually did. I actually thought he answered that question pretty well. So there were moments like that, but then there were other times where I go, okay, that's kind of, how he's answered before.
That's why I was saying there was, each candidate had their strengths and each candidate had their weaknesses. And,
right.
and it was evenly from all of them.
Yeah. And I feel like, I think, like to Ed's point, I feel like Rantham probably benefited, if anybody did. I feel like he might have benefited the most just because he sounded more of a serious candidate than he's been taken in the past, because he has come across, as so focused on election stuff.
Well, and that's the thing. He comes across, and he's been branded by the media, both conservative and liberal, as a one-trick pony. And I think this really gave him the opportunity to say, and if you talk to him one-on-one, there's more depth there. But when you're just getting the sound bites and stuff, yes, he's hyper-focusing on election integrity. But in reality, this really, I think, gave him a better platform, and he sounded better than I think he's done in the past.
Let's say it, Ed. It sounds like Tim Rantham was ready to step up tonight on the big stage, and he did.
He certainly was.
Yeah.
He may not have the staying power, he may not have the infrastructure, but it sounded like for tonight in this moment, he held his own, and he was prepared.
Yes, he did.
And he was waiting for his opportunity to get into the big ring with the big names, and he came. And at the very least, it sounds to me, based on what you guys are saying, he put himself in a better position. He seemed to be serious on the issues, and he held his own. And if that be the case, then what's going to be the divider, right? So what's round two? We have the Dan O'Donnell coming up. What's round two? What's the next evolution of the next 3 weeks in the campaign, strategy, campaign to get the vote out? If all things are equal, all of them get a slight bump in the polls, of that undecided goes down. Each one picks up 2 or 3 points. If all things been equal, that everybody did a great night, or Rebecca and Michaels did okay. No down or up, and Rantham rolls in the polls. 2 weeks left. What's going to be the determining factor at this point?
Doors.
It has to be ground. Doors, ground game, mailers, television, radio. It has to be that, and that advantage has clearly been to Michaels.
When you have to ask yourself too, like how many, because there's so many different ways to reach people. There are, it's doors, mailers, ads. Then there's the debate where people can hear like more your more articulate ideas. Hopefully you're more articulate, but you get to showcase a little bit more than just the simple ads. Good point. That's a good point, Chris. But you have to, I guess you kind of got to weigh like, okay, what really matters in the end? Like how many people watch the debate? How much does it help someone or hurt someone? Like, is it only people like us that are plugged into the debate?
Yeah.
Like, does the average primary voter pay attention? I'm just curious. Like, how much does a debate matter? I mean, it does matter. It does matter. But I'm just saying, I'm wondering how much, like,
how much does it matter?
Yeah.
And I ask that because in all reality, if I'm going to be 1,000% honest.
Go ahead.
This is the first governor's debate I have ever watched. And well, you focus on national stuff and you focus on the presidential debates, the glamorous, the sexy, and all that other stuff. And I think the average Republican voter, they don't watch these debates. I don't think they, if the average Republican voter doesn't watch these debates, what do you think the average voter does?
No. You do have to also keep in mind that there's how much coverage is done after the debates on conservative talk radio, on articles that are written.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily just the debate itself; it's the aftermath. Excuse me.
But it's all soundbite. Yeah.
Right. Like, do you have a good soundbite? Did you have like enough of on certain issues where somebody writes an article and put your stance out there more? So there can be like a springboard, or you can get something more out of the debate than just the debate itself. So that's something too, like where tomorrow I'm sure there'll be plenty on talk radio about what people thought, what the conservative, the talk radio.
I can't wait to hear Jay Weber tomorrow morning.
What is his deal then? Is he, who is he supporting?
Well, he's definitely not supporting Rebecca, and he berates her like crazy, and it's disgusting because he shouldn't be berating any of them. You shouldn't be berating any of them. Just like this whole business with all three of these candidates, or four of the candidates, they have to spend all this money to fight each other. Now you've blown your war chest to go against the idiot that's in the governor's mansion right now.
Right.
Where is the brain work in that whole thing?
Well,
and these people sit there and support that. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. I've noticed that. I mean, for me, it personally it does turn me off when somebody goes negative too much. And I think sometimes it's the tone, because I think there's a way to make a distinction between you and you have to try to make a distinction from you and the other candidates. So I get that. You have to, it's all part of the process. Like, hey, I'm the best candidate because X, Y, Z. So, he said, I thought I read that wrong. Okay. Well, and I honestly don't, if I had to pick somebody, I would say it was either Rampton or Rebecca, but I just don't see how Michael's actually won with his, I don't feel like he had a command of the issues, and he didn't like have a big presence on the stage. I don't feel like he there just wasn't that presence there and that energy. And I think, again, he did good on some answers, and he's improving in some ways, but then I feel like he struggled a little bit and just didn't have a good handle, a good handle on all the issues. So I feel like that's still he's got to really work on that.
Right.
It just is what it is. So
it's a good thing he didn't wear his I Love Connecticut shirt to the debate.
I saw that.
He did talk about Wisconsin. I noticed he really did try to focus on when he's been to Milwaukee, or he, did bring up purposely, I think, like stuff about Wisconsin. And I think he was trying to make the point. He knew, about Wisconsin enough to be a valid candidate to, even though he's Connecticut part-time.
I was half expecting him to like drop a city name from Connecticut just by accident. Like,
Oh,
oh,
I
didn't
don't
mean to
think he
say
did
that.
that. So at least he, did okay with that. I don't think he had like a major. The DACA question definitely, I think, was a oops moment. And there was a few other questions where, he's in a tough position with the decertify. Do you decertify or not? Because Trump, I'm sure. Well, I already
Mhm.
know he's pressuring him to. So I'm curious after what he said if Trump will come out and make a statement, and will he still support him? I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic with, he's under pressure to meet Trump's standards, but also take a position where he doesn't, feel like he's gonna lose voters by going that route. So
I
I
think
guess.
you guys are hitting some really good notes. I think in the end, I think all what you said is very relevant on how many people watch the debates, what's going to be the spin room, and the spin that comes out of the debates. Who had the one-liners. If Tim is still kind of struggling, and let's just call it for what it is, Tim may not be the best public speaker or the debater.
Sure.
Like most candidates, they are better on the stomp than they are in a fluid back and forth. They know
Right.
what they want to say, and no one's challenging them or taking them off their rhythm. And they say what they have to say, and hey, God bless you, I'm gone. Get out of here.
Right. God bless America.
Debate, you have to switch gears, you have to adjust, you have to adapt to the question, or if someone comes at you, you have to be ready. And that may not be Tim's strongest suit. The question, I think you guys made some good points now, like who has the infrastructure and the lasting power, I believe, at this point, who can still push their message out. Tim Raffin may have landed some really great blows tonight, or at least established that he has some great footing. But does he have the infrastructure? Does he get a bump in donations over the next 48 hours? Does Rebecca pick up some more money, to push her through the threshold to say, I have enough to get these next 2.5 weeks to get my message out? It is definitely one that, we know what the Michaels team is going to do. They're going to just, deluge the community with mailers and
flyers and
ads. It may not even depend on the debate anymore because, again, who watches the debate besides the heads? But I think Stephanie had a point. It's kind of the, it's the, the spin that comes out of it. But again, the spin that comes out of it, it is only as good as the people who have the infrastructure to get the message out.
Yeah.
I'd rather see something in my mailbox. I'd rather see anything in my mailbox come in other than Alex Lasry. So, I don't care who it is. Just send me something other than Alex Lasry.
Yeah, he's got plenty of money. Alex Lasry's spending plenty of money on his own campaign. So
I ever tell you guys I cut the cord years ago. So I only watch TV by streaming. And honestly, I only watch YouTube. So I'm either learning something or I'm watching something really stupid. And it's funny because it's like, where do you get your dark sense of humor? There's a lot of cats on YouTube, and trust me, we share a lot of stuff in common. But I'm either trying to learn something or I'm watching something really stupid just because I like to have some laughs. But since I'm kind of broke and I don't pay for like YouTube Premium, I got the commercials. Oh my God, if I got to see, I think Alex Lasry has a cute kid. Don't get me wrong. Beautiful wife. Don't get me wrong. Wonderful family. Tired of seeing them though. I mean, it's like, I don't even know you people like that, but I feel like I know you and I shouldn't know you. Enough. I
shouldn't know you.
I shouldn't know you guys like this. Like, this is like, no, I'm not voting for you. The D is like an automatic disqualifier. I'm just, you're a tribalist. Yeah, fine, whatever. Call me what you want. I just, no. But they are flooding the ads. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous. I've seen Lasry's. I've seen Johnson's actually putting some out there. Not as much as Lasry, but who else? There was another I think Galuski. I've seen a couple. Michaels has been flooding social media, especially on the YouTube front. So, yeah, it's been kind of really interesting watching how they're spending on social media.
Sorry, I was going to say, what's interesting is you look at like in 2016 with Hillary Clinton and Trump, as far as I know, she far outspent Trump actually in the election, but then Trump still ended up winning. So sometimes money doesn't always translate into winning. And so it depends on how strong your, like, the energy and passion behind your supporters sometimes, and how hard are they going to work for you to do doors and to, you know, talk to their neighbors about you. And like, so it, you know, it definitely matters, I think, how strongly people feel about the candidate they're supporting, and are they working hard to get their name out there and get the information out there on behalf of their candidate. And I think that can make a difference. So sometimes, you know, you look at the candidates and who are people like feeling so I mean, and again, like with Rantham, he has very passionate supporters, but how wide, how far does that go across the entire state? And
it's a bubble.
So that's what's that?
Right now, I see it as a bubble.
Yeah.
You know, his supporters are there's passionate ones, and then there's almost cultist ones. And you know, and I'll call ducks, you know. And I mean, you know, I was talking with Tim yesterday, and I'm hoping to have him on sometime within the next week and a half. And I'm going to, you know, reach out to him tomorrow. But I'm not going to, you know, sugarcoat it either. There are some of them that are just straight up cultists, and they're not living in reality.
Well, you sometimes get so attached to a candidate that,
right.
Again, and I mean, it happens with all of them, I think, but where you just are so like, they're the only one, and
right?
Nobody else.
Like, this one's walking on water. Everyone else sucks at life. Like, they're horrible breathers.
Horrible. Nobody else can like even come close. And it's just like, okay, well, you know.
Let's talk about that.
We only have one candidate in the Republican Party that does that right now here in Wisconsin, and we have him on our show with we have that walks on water. We have him on the show right here tonight. Orlando, that's right.
And he's just humble enough to say, no, I can't do that.
You ain't talking about me.
The only water Orlando's walking on is ice.
There you go.
Well, he's walking on water then.
Just solid state. Just remember,
definitely
water comes in three forms.
I love the humor of the show tonight. I love the humor. Let's. I mean, those are great processing questions of like tonight. I think tonight your camp wanted you to win, and I would think the Michaels camp is still going to be there. They may have some quiet questions on preparedness. I think Tim can get there. He has to be a student if he is not up on each issue. I mean, meaning Michaels, he has to be prepared. We know that Rebecca is a smooth operator on the microphone, and she knows her stuff. You cannot come out with half answers or kind of like platitudes. She's going to nail you, and that to her credit. I hope tomorrow's headline is not Rebecca being shrill. You know, I hope that's not going to be the headline tomorrow. That, you know, she, you know,
I would expect it though.
I hope not, because I think there's a slight tinge of sexism in some of these terminologies that we're using against her, and I don't like it because the fact of the matter is we all asked for a debate, we all asked for a primary, we all asked for a non-endorsement. So in order for them to show some separation, there's inevitably there was going to your man said he didn't want to go, you know, further negative, or didn't want to go negative, you know, Nicholson. So let's if we ask this question, if they all are in line pretty much on every issue, how are we going to grade it on presentation? On you know, stage appearance, stage presence? Is if that's the final grade, then let's say that like, oh, she has a better stage appearance. Well, he seems to be more comfortable behind the microphone. Let's say that then, because if we're going to have a non-endorsement, and you want to say, well, the people got to pick, and then there's going to be some jabs blown. I think it's nothing wrong with, and I think Stephanie said there's nothing wrong with having compare and contrast. It's the part that's negative, and you know, Tim has been trying to explain positions of being on boards and gasoline taxes, whatever. You know, I think the camps needed this. I think this gives them a jolt in the arm on who did well. I think the camps all need that to keep volunteers going. But really, it is going to be now who has the infrastructure to sprint to the finish line.
Mhm.
And you can have a great message in Tim Rathman. He may have hit every note. Now does he have the staying power for the next 2.5 weeks to get how well he did tonight out? It sounds to me, if I'm again someone who hadn't seen the debates yet, it sounds like there were really no losers tonight.
No, I mean even with Michael's missteps here and there, he didn't lose any ground. The needle wasn't moved, I don't think, for anybody, because I think the people that watched. What's that?
No needles were moved down.
No needles moved down. No needles moved up.
You don't think Rathman moved up a little bit?
I don't think that the needle moved up. I think he just made it visible to people that he's a viable candidate.
I think he became visible within the politically initiated. I think for the average voter, they weren't even tuning in, but I think the ratings numbers on that will be the telling thing on that.
And I think too, like that there are, was it 30% voters are undecided? Is that what
35, I think
32% or something like that it was.
So I mean, it is really interesting to think, where do those votes go, and did this have any, did anybody who was watching who was undecided feel like they wanted to jump in Michael's camp or Rebecca's camp or Rantham?
Right.
I'm just very curious if you
got an interesting point there.
But also keep in mind too, that Marquette University law poll that came out only had a sample size of 803 people, and it had a plus minus margin of error, I think, of like 5 or 6%, so higher than the norm.
That's a big that's a big variable.
It's a huge variable, and your sample size was incredibly small. So I'd be more interested in seeing what the polling numbers are, if you're looking at it in aggregate, and if, like, say you had Zogby, I'm not a big fan of 538, but Nate Silver does what he does. But Orlando, you were just saying.
I'd like to see a poll of people.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Trace.
I'd like to see a poll of people who were undecided going into tonight and see if they lean towards a candidate. That would be an ideal thing to see.
Like a focus group.
Yes.
Like they do with the presidential.
Well, I think, and shout out to Christina. Great. She does a great job out there, and her husband. If I had to endorse somebody, if I was, her husband is awesome running out there as an assembly person out there in the part of the, I think she's.
Estenson.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, up in the 23rd.
Great couple. I hope you get him on, Ed. He's a guy you would definitely love this kind of chat
Tuesday night. We're doing our interview. Just real quick update. Tuesday night. I'm interviewing him. I'm dropping that episode. I'm hoping to dropping it at about 8:00 Tuesday night. If not, then Wednesday for sure I'll be dropping it. So Dave Estenson, we're going to be interviewing him. This Thursday, we're going to be bringing back on Eric Tooney and talk to several people at the picnic. Will Martin, Tim Rantham, who else? Purnima Nath, Paul Farrow confirmed August 15th after the primary. And I know I'm missing one or two other people, but the conversation continues.
Hey,
that'll be cool.
If you are
Purnima
Purnima.
What's that?
I said that'll be cool. You're having Purnima on. I know her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We have a lot of local talent who are running locally in the Milwaukee area as well too, who don't have primaries. You got David Karsh and Bob Donovan, and Christina said it's the 31st Senate district her husband's running for.
Okay, I got that mixed up.
If you are a candidate, I advise you all to reach out to the Caramel Conservative if he hadn't found you already, to come out on the show. Great interviewer, great man. I think Ed is one of the leading voices between him, Stephanie. I even give, my friend Justin over there at Badger Resist.
Badger State
I know
Resistance.
that,
Yep.
I separate him from the candidate and also look at what they do. I think Mike on the right up there might be doing a little work. It's only a few, so I'm looking forward to Delgado's. I don't know if he announced his coverage of the election night. But
let's break that. Let's break that right now here.
Stephanie, I think he wants your help, and Tracy.
August 9th, we're going to be doing election coverage. We're going to be kicking it off. I'm thinking 5, 6 o'clock. I got to get more details together. I was talking with Brian Schimming yesterday, and he kind of gave, how somebody gives you a suggestion, but it's like they're kind of telling you what you need to do, and you'd be like really stupid not to listen to them. I had one of those moments, and Brian's like, you don't have to listen to me. But what you really should consider doing is election night coverage on their podcast. No one else is doing it. I'm like, that's a good idea. It's like, no, you really should consider it. It's kind of like, I got a deal for you, and you can't pass it up. I'll think about it. No, I said you can't pass it up. Listen, you guys are talking to us guys, but it was like, you know what? And as I'm driving, I'm talking with my wife, and it's like, nah, we're gonna make this happen. It's gonna happen. So, like I said, details coming on that. August 9th. Yep, Tracy, Stephanie. I'm gonna reach out to different campaigns, see if we can get folks up in here, because we want to get this out and just go over the coverage, talk about the ups, the downs, the wins, losses, everything else, because we have such a depth. I mean, our bench is deep.
You all will be doing the coverage that night that people are going to tune into, not NBC, not ABC, but they're going to be tuning in to all these
how many people can we have on
the state of Wisconsin, broadcasting from their platforms, sharing out on their platforms. Everybody's going to be. I feel like I'm hype man for all the talks. Hey, we have everybody. He's Ed Delgado, Ian, Stephanie, Tracy. You guys, it's our night that night to broadcast our takes on the coverage of our state by state people and state talent who are not biased, who are not, trying to split their spin on it. We're going to have you guys covering it. But also, Christina makes a great point. Whoever wins August 9th, what are we going to do after that? What we're going to do? Because we have to understand where ultimately this road has to go. Where it has to go.
Whoever wins, that's who we have to support.
Sure.
I think you're right, and so I just look at it from this standpoint. If all things are equal, man, you look at people, and I don't know. I think, Stephanie, to your point, I don't know if money does it this time, because I'll tell you, I'm stepping out being a candidate. I'm just giving commentary. I'm a political commentator right now. I don't know if people are really that intrigued with people who get, if I get 17 mailers from you, it may actually turn me off, because it looks like you got a lot of money, and I'm not feeling money right now.
Well, Michael said something too, and he goes, we don't need out-of-state billionaires. I'm like, no, you didn't just say that. Like, call it an unfair criticism of him. All right, you live here in Wisconsin 183 days. You live out of state the remainder of the time. You said out-of-state billionaires. That's a lot of ammunition you just handed to everyone else. Like, did you really do that? Yeah, I'm just saying, it was a bad look.
So I don't know. I want to say that because I don't know if money will do it, because I think a lot of people just, if there was ever a year that a candidate was not as well financed could win, at least out of a Republican primary, it would be this year.
I think connections have more meaning than mailers or ads.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that goes back to how strongly are the supporters of the candidates, how strongly do they feel where they're going to tell people person to person, whether it's doing doors or
Mhm.
telling their neighbors, telling their, friends, whatever, to vote for this person. I think the passion and energy behind different candidates can also be the difference. So, I
Yeah.
don't know what level that's at for the different candidates.
So for me, I'm telling you, I've never seen the amount of ground game out here like this. You have the Michaels team everywhere, the Rebecca team, and Tim Rathman and his group are just hard charging. They're doing doors. The governor's race that's doing doors. My hope, to Christina's point, that this type of ground game continues August 10th.
We really have. I mean, it's an imperative, really. I mean, and I've gotten into arguments with people about this, but if you think about it, at the end of the day, we need to take a page out of the Democrat playbook and circle the wagons. We really, really need to say, you know what, hey man, you know what, my guy or gal didn't win, and that sucks. But you know what, having Evers for another 4 years, that's even worse. Can't have it.
Can I proper up a position? I don't know if I said that correctly or not. I'm a little tired. Y'all got to forgive me.
It's all good.
I know that we campaign 101 says that after the primary, you got to modulate toward the middle in the general election to get that soft 3% vote, that in the middle vote. That's what Politic 101 will tell you. What about if we pushed our turnout even higher in conservative districts that are 76% turnout to get them to 78? If we had a number that we pushed out the 5% average higher, when you do the whole average of numbers, we turned out from 82% to 84%, 76% to 79%. If we push the turnout higher in those conservative districts and counties, do we have to capitulate so much to the middle for 3% if we can pick up an extra 1 or 2 in the year? That's a question to the panel.
Stephanie, you want this one first?
Sure.
What does the number say?
No, I don't know the perfect answer as far as like how you make sure you get that. I mean, you definitely want to have as many people as possible knocking on doors and talking to people and getting out the vote that way. So I think, that's certainly important. And I think, I think it's a balance, because I think you do have to appeal to the average person versus just the grassroots. Like, I think you do have to speak to issues, because Ed, you've mentioned this before, you do have to make sure you're focused on the things that matter to the average person. But having said that, the
kitchen table issues.
Yeah, you have to, like, your messaging has to be where it'll appeal to, not just the grassroots, put it that way. However, I do think turnout is always an important factor. How hard do people work to get your message out there on the candidate's behalf, and are people willing to knock on doors? And I just a couple weekends ago was talking to a voter someone who, she said she's always supported Ron Johnson, but she was a little hesitant about him just because of all the negative ads. And I was able to convince her, like, no, like, just trust me, it's a lot of smears. It's not, a lot of that stuff is either twisted or just not true at all. And then she was like, by the end, she was like, oh, keep doing what you're doing. And like, she plans on voting for Johnson. So now, again, there's a lot of stuff that could happen from now until then, but it's just, again, we have to make sure that when August 10th comes around, that we need all hands on deck, and we need to make sure that we're not, this is why I don't like the sniping so much right now, because I can make a point about any of the candidates where I think they could improve without being nasty and without like attacking the person in a way that is like, and again, I'm not talking about like, okay, don't take yourself so seriously. We can take a joke. You can tease different candidates, do it lightheartedly, whatever. But some of the stuff I see, even the back and forth of, the different people, are toxic, incredibly nasty, incredibly low, just really personal attacks. And I think again, you can say where you think a candidate could improve or where you disagree with them without like getting overly, where how do you come back from saying those things to where, okay, now I'm willing to support them.
And that's, and I think that's a very important distinction, because that's why I made it a point not to trash anybody, because I could literally take all 4 of these candidates. I can make a case for you. I can also deconstruct you. But that doesn't mean that, okay, so I'm not a big fan of, say, Tim Michaels and the whole part-time residency thing. However, I can clearly understand why he does it, and it makes sense. And, I mean, perception is reality for a lot of people. But again, I'm not trashing the guy as, no, he's an East Coast liberal. And I saw people saying that, and it's like, all right.
Well, he's not a liberal. Come on.
He's not a liberal by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Tim Rantham's crazy. He's eccentric, but not crazy.
I like it. He's eccentric.
Well, I mean, listen to the man. I mean, he and that's why what I think, he did well tonight, because he really broadened his base in terms of the breadth of topics that he talks on. Tracy, let's get to you here. What are your thoughts here? We're running about a half hour before. I said I was only going to do like an hour and a half. We're 2.5 hours in. Let's go for 3. Why not? Make Mario happy.
Do we need the soft middle, Tracy, or do we need to turn out and push out the conservative base even more so we don't have to capitulate so much to the middle?
I think we need to push out the Republican base even more and not worry about the middle, because the middle is so on a fence all the time, it really doesn't matter. And
very milk.
We need to get the lazy butts out of their houses and go to the polls. That's as simple as that. I'm so sick of hearing people complain and whine and everything there is about the way government is. But then when you go, well, did you vote? No. I'm sorry. You got nowhere to talk then.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get them out off their lazy butts and get them into the polls. Simple as that. And that, however we do that, I mean, I'll go drag people by their ear out the door and say, let's go vote. I don't care. But that's kind of the biggest problem. If you're going to whine and you're going to complain, then do something about it.
Right.
And doing something about it is getting to the polling booth and casting your vote for who you think you want to have. That's where I think we need to focus on. And it's going from 77% to 80%, in areas that's, I think I agree with Orlando.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think there is room for the soft middle, but not at the behest, not at us losing 76% to 75%, trying to capitulate. And because the soft middle is so fickle and it's so funny, they don't know who they're voting for on election day.
They go in there and go, boom, that's what I'm going to go. Who did I hear the most stuff about on TV? That's what I'm going to do.
Stephanie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to add. So I think, for me, I've always felt like you can appeal to the average person who maybe is a little more independent minded without sacrificing your principles and without, capitulating too much. I feel like you can still be an appealing candidate and make an appealing message without losing who you are and compromising your values. So I feel like there's a way to do both, but certainly, I'm not going to appease, I would never change my stance just to appease someone in the middle.
Right.
I think how you tailor your message can make a difference. And the strategy, sometimes you strategize, what are your focuses going to be so that you can appeal to those people. But then, whatever my stances are, I'm not going to change them just to make sure I get that independent vote. I hope they would vote for me if I ran, but I wouldn't change what I believe just for that sake.
I think you're spot on. I think Ed Delgado talked about, and others have said that independents, they break toward people who put forth their position and sound the most confident in their position. I think also, to your point, Stephanie, I think there's a way you say it. And I think Ron Johnson is starting to tap into it. I know I've been playing with it and toying with it, that if I've made it out of this primary, and I pray I will do with all you guys' help, I pray I don't take anything for granted. I've been working hard. I'm going to continue to work my butt off. I've been working for a year. I'm not stopping now. But I think there's a tone and a message that you can appeal to people in the middle without, to Stephanie's point, losing your core, but also driving up our side like this. So, for instance, I saw a guy yesterday in St. Croix who was like, him and his, I think, I'm assuming his wife. She was like, I'm voting. Let him give me one of your, I'm voting. And I looked at the guy, he's kind of mingling around, like, man, can I get your vote? And he was like, well, I don't really vote no more. I was like, what? He's like, I've lost confidence in the system. And so we talked for a minute. So, man, you have every right to be mad. You have every right to not have a real strong feeling. But I'll tell you what, man, don't give up on America, man. We need you like no time before. Don't give up on America. And I said, pray on it, man. And he said, you know what, man, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. He said, thanks for talking to me, right? He was at the Republican booth. We have to make certain that people who are upset about the system, how it works, that we still give them a reason to go vote. I think that's what Trump tapped into. Trump tapped into people. And you guys follow my lives. I make it a point, man, to go find those young people, and they're fired up for our country. I'm making sure that I went to my first mud race yesterday, and I love mud. And the people, you saw the lives, the people were going crazy. He was like, I love your Let's Go Brandon shirt. It's like, yeah. And I think that's the driving of that 76 to 79, that we get more people. And that's what Trump did. Trump didn't necessarily appeal to the middle. But I will say, to Stephanie's point about messaging is so important, and I get to this point that I was trying to say about Ron, and I've been working with my own message of saying this to those independent people or that soft middle. You given your time, your treasure, and your patience. You give them everything they have. They've run every part of our state, every part of our cities. And yet and still, they have failed us time and time again. You've been more than patient with them. And each time, they'll let you down. They'll build you up and say your dream. And each time, we come out of it, kids are still doing bad in schools. Murders still happening in the street. It's times you have to look at something. You have to say, you've been more than patient. And I think that was Ron is trying to get this middle. And I think that's where you'll see a lot of candidates start to rotate to say, we ain't trying to blame you, but we are saying you've been more than faithful. Yeah. You've been more than patient with people. It's time for you to say, you know what, enough is enough.
And I want to add something here, because when you think about, I'll add this and then we'll get to Tracy, but when we talk about messaging, I think that's very, very important in how you frame it. So, for example, when I do the Tuesday night Caramel Conservative podcast, well, that's going to be more of a PG-13, almost rated R type of content. The language is going to be a lot more coarse, and there's going to be F-bombs and stuff like that. And the reason why is because there's a certain group of people you can talk to that way, and that's the only way you're going to reach them. Being straight talk, straight lace, whatever, you're not going to reach those folks. By the other hand, the same message, you have to, frame it differently in order to reach a different group of people. And your language changes. It's called mirroring. Another example I'd give you is, do you take Second Amendment, for example? I am a 2A absolutist. I think you should be able to 3D print your guns and, forget, any licensing or anything nonsense like that. As a matter of fact, I am so 2A, I should have a tank in my driveway. And if I can afford it, I should be able to have a missile silo in my backyard. No different than the coasters of the 1700s. However, when you hit somebody with that, that's too much for them. Saying that you're a 2A absolutist and you're all about protecting the Second Amendment and why it's so important. It's not just hunting. It's not just, skeet shooting. It is, for the protection of the state, the Constitution, and the Republic. That framing is different than saying I should have a tank in my yard.
Yes.
You
Like
want
you
to
don't
borrow
want
my
to put
Sherman
that on
tank,
an
Ed?
ad on a mailer, Ed.
I'm just saying
You
we
wanna-
could all ride together, rolling down Main Street, just kind of hanging out on 108th,
Everybody
on
should
Highway
have a
100.
tank. That should
Right.
be
just-
Hey, the
Yeah.
roads
People
are bad. You need a tank.
They'll,
Yeah.
they'll be worse for the
everybody
thing.
needs a tank.
Tracy,
you want
go
to borrow
ahead.
my
What you
Sherman?
got there, man?
You want to
Oh,
borrow my
I'd
Sherman
be-
tank?
I'd be so on board. What are you guys doing tonight? We're riding tanks, baby. We're riding tanks.
Yeah, there you go. We're gonna cruise down Highway 100 in
Going to the
tanks,
mud pit to drive tanks.
What's the
and
guest
then
mileage on there?
we'll have our pilot friends fly over us in their jets, right?
That'd be awesome too, because there'll be somebody with a souped up Honda Civic. What's your gas mileage? Negative 10 miles per foot.
Oh
Issues
yeah.
there. But
No,
go on, Tracy. Go ahead.
boy, that was a good one, man. Negative 10 miles.
But
per foot.
again, we gotta have the laughs. I mean, you want to focus on just politics and just make it oh man, everything's terrible. No, there's a lot of fun stuff too. Come on now.
You gotta have fun with it.
Absolutely. A lot of things you can bring up too is, like Orlando, you said you had that guy who said he doesn't vote anymore. I would have said to him right away, did you vote in 2020? And he probably would have said no. And I'll say, do you like where we are right now?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of how you
It
got to
makes a
look at it.
difference.
Oh
It
yeah,
matters.
because I hear so many people nowadays that go, oh man, I'm so sick of the gas price and inflation and the cost of buying a house and the cost of paying for food. Well, how did you vote in 2020? Because elections have consequences. We always say that elections have consequences, and they honestly do. And
Huge. That's just
if you absolutely, and if you didn't vote for Trump, if you didn't vote because you weren't happy with his mean tweets, who cares about his mean tweets? I loved his mean tweets. Bring them on. At least he was straightforward with people.
Right.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you got all these people get so offended by the littlest thing. You couldn't offend me if you tried. I couldn't offend me if you tried. And people need to have a backbone, and they need to start standing up and stop being whiny babies.
Well,
And-
you look at. Sorry, I was going to say, look at Biden, and he constantly lies. Like he's lying. He's saying the exact opposite of what people can see with their own eyes a lot of times.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Here,
so,
I'll give you a great example of that. Brian
Yeah.
Shimmy just posted this about 2 hours ago. So generally, the definition of recession is 2 quarters of negative growth for your GDP. They are now, the Council of Economic Advisors is now redefining what a recession is, because they're
Really?
expecting to have negative growth here this
kind of
Thursday.
like the redefinition of a vaccine. after
Let's
the
just
vaccine.
say that if you've ever read the book 1984 or seen the movie, this is, the idea of rewriting history and calling it double plus good bad.
2 + 2 = 5 or whatever.
It's whatever you want it to be,
Well,
Yeah, you can make it. In the liberal
What's the
mind, it can be whatever you want it to be.
what's the definition of woman? Well,
I'm not a biologist.
No. Don't know what a woman
That's
is.
what they're
and
doing,
what's
though.
sitting
They're
right here in this seat.
That's why I tell people, it's like, like when people say I need God, it's like, no. I need Jesus. I need God. I need Buddha. I need Ra. I'll take Xenu from Scientology. I need gods that haven't even been made up, because there is no way I can do this on my own. I need everybody's help. Thor, Odin, Hercules.
Don't forget Zool. Don't
Superman.
forget Zool.
Zool. There is no Gozer.
Thor? Did you say Thor?
Thor. It's like you get to a point where you're just like, I just can't. I can't do this no more. I can't. And like I said, this is where it's like, this is where you start getting funny with it, because you're like, what's your option? Extreme frustration or just laugh at it?
You have to laugh at some. I mean, that's why I love the Babylon Bee, because it allows you to laugh at the absurdity of it all while still getting they're more real than satire compared to the news. I mean, because you're getting more of reality with Babylon Bee. So,
well, the
because they're making
mockery really
points that are
hits the
true.
story. Yeah, it's just awesome how they do that.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up here. We got about, I want to see, we're 2 hours 41 minutes in. I want to close this out with some announcements. So let's go another 10 minutes. Let's take a look at, we obviously primary August 9. We just finished the governor's debate. There's one more debate with Dan O'Donnell, WISN. I think it's going to be an awesome one there.
What time is that at?
I think it's in the morning. I want to say like 9
Is it
o'clock.
at 9? Is it when his show starts at 9 o'clock, I think?
I believe so.
11. Okay.
And so let's break it down like this. We go Stephanie, we're going to go Tracy, we're going to go Orlando. When it comes to this election cycle, give me your 3 most important issues and why.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
You know, when I've ever done a survey and there's like, what issue is most important to you? And there's like 10 or 12. And I'm like, okay, like pick 3. And I'm like, that one, that one, that one. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to change it. Oh, shoot, no, that's important. Oh, there's like 10 things that are, it's hard to choose.
Or worse yet, your issue isn't even on there.
Or that too. Well, they do say other. They do have an other spot. But, you know, I mean, obviously the governor's race is different than the senators as far as like the focus. So, I mean, because there's different issues, kind of like the border at the national level is a huge problem, and it's affecting, we got human trafficking, we got drugs, we've got illegal immigrants that we lost track of. We don't know if terrorists are coming into our country. I mean,
100%.
Lots of problems with that issue at the federal level. You've obviously got inflation and energy, and I don't know if I could maybe put that all in the economy, you know, just the economy in general, supply chain, the pricing of things, the cost of living. Crime could be a big one for our state as far as like the DAs, that, you know, people getting off, being put back in the streets, running over people in parades. We've got riots and violence that way that the left allows to happen. So crime, I think, for our state is, and especially Milwaukee, like we could really hit hard on some of these issues where there's a lot of evidence that the Democrats have really done a poor job on those issues. So, I mean, that kind of, I was kind of hitting 3 different things, you know, within the governor's race and the senator's race. And Congress too. I mean, there's congressional. I hope Derek Van Orden wins, of course. That'd be great to have 6 seats in our state that go Republican. So, those off the top of my head are important issues. Of course, schools. I mean, again, see, there's a 4th one. Schools are incredibly important. Education we could really hit hard on that because people are saying that people believe that Evers is, that's his thing. He's good with education because he's been in education, and they just assume that he cares about education. So, you know, they don't think about the record, but we could easily point out the record of how schools have gone downhill, especially in the last 2 years. And that's partly because of the shutdown. So, anyways, so at the end of the day, whatever candidate wins, a lot of it can just be focused on the issues, not just the candidate, but if we push hard on the issues, regardless of the candidate, I think that could really be helpful to us.
Okay. Tracy, what you got? Top 3.
Top 3, I think mine will go for federal and state. I think number 1 is election integrity. Got to clean up our elections. They got to be fair, and they got to be just. Number 2 would be, you know, you talk about the border and you talk about police and crime. I think those would be classified under one category of safety. And then the 3rd would be the economy. Those would be my top 3.
Okay.
We've got so much crime growing around here, and I'm seeing it more and more on a regular basis trickling in from Milwaukee into West Dallas. It's making me sick. We had a couple murders the last couple weeks. They happen to be domestic violence or domestic, you know, dispute relationships that were a thing, but broad daylight. The most recent one, a mother of 4 gets gunned down by a guy who was in a relationship with her.
Oh man.
You know, it's ridiculous. And then, like I said, the economy. You know, people cannot, when your income doesn't keep up with the amount of the prices of things going up, we have a problem. And I said that. So those would be my top 3. And of course, the schools, you know, education would be 4th. But
yeah, no doubt. Orlando, what do you got, brother?
I agree with everybody. I think that, you know, the economy, I think Darlene said it best, you know, from James Carville 92 with Clinton, is the economy stupid. That's gas, food, safety, public safety, education, getting people back to work again and taking care of our entrepreneurs and our businesses. You know, these are huge issues. And how can we affect those and, you know, effectuate the things in a positive direction? So also, let me be clear. Giving government back to the people, customer service.
Awesome. If I was looking at my top 3, I hear a pup. Everybody knows.
Sorry,
I love
my dog's
pups.
yelling at me. She's like, "You've been on there way too long."
Oh, I got my Roddy laying down over here. Normally he's kind of all up on me, but tonight he's kind of like cut me some slack.
She's a little feisty.
But
tonight.
here's my top 3. One is the economy, hands down. You have to look at the economy. This is your weapon. This is your sword. Without your sword, without your weapon, you can't defend yourself. Money is what gives you freedom. It is a tool, and it can be used for good and bad. And I think we need to really focus on developing the economy here in Wisconsin. Even if it is a sub-economy, it is an economy that almost runs independent of, you know, the federal dollar. Not that I'm advocating that we print our own money or anything like that, but really at the end of the day, I mean, it's ridiculous that we're dealing with $4 or $5 gas. I went to Walmart, picked up some, thing of chicken, $14. It's up like almost 50%. It's ridiculous. The economy is number 1 for me. Number 2 is public safety. This is where the attorney general race becomes so much more important, because we need to have prosecutions done. We need to have attorney generals, that are going to be firing DAs that aren't doing their job. We need people that are going to be over here and, put away the bad guys. None of this low bail crap. Enough's enough. And I think third, most importantly, well, just as important, I should say, and it's going to be a little bit different than something I normally harp upon, but we need to work in a way in bringing Wisconsin into the 21st century. I'm talking technology. I'm talking agriculture. I'm talking a new way of doing commerce. We need to take Wisconsin and literally, I've heard Madison referred to as the Berkeley of the Midwest. Let's make Wisconsin the tip of the spear for a conservative renaissance. And I think we can do it. We have the bench. We have the people. Let's make it happen.
All right.
Very good.
Sammy agrees.
Let's get fired up, America.
Here we go, Ed.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for joining on here. We're 2 hours, 49 minutes. Again, I told my wife, I'll be on an hour and a half. You know what she told me? So you mean 3 hours?
Yeah, she knows you.
Damn it, man. She got me. Let's do some closing statements here. Let's go, Tracy, Stephanie. Let's go, Orlando. Tracy, break it down for me. Closing comments, and then I'll cut you loose here, and we'll break it up, and I'll close her out. Go ahead here, Brother Stefanski.
All right. So, like I said, we got to, be ready for the primary. We got to back whoever wins, no matter who it is, whether it's the person you wanted to win or not. And we've got to take back the governor, the governor's house. We got to take back the attorney general. We got to put Orlando in the treasurer's office, and we got to get a Republican state secretary of state. And then all the other races, we got to, put Republicans in there too, because we just got to clean up.
Clean house.
Get out and vote, support your candidate, make your voice heard. And we'll see you on my show, Politicking Me Off, soon again.
All right, brother. Let's connect so we can we gotta do some collaborations here and stuff. So that's real cool. So keep up the good
Thanks
work,
a lot,
brother.
you
We'll
guys. Have a
definitely
good
be in
night.
touch, my friend. Thank you for coming on. Stephanie, how are you, my dear?
Good show tonight.
I was gonna say, I bet you
good
regret jumping
conversation.
on this one here tonight, huh?
Yeah, good discussion and very good. I think great debate about candidates and just the election in general and what's at stake. So I don't know if I have much more to add to what I said already. I think it's important to again always look at the greater picture, the bigger picture. So if your candidate doesn't win, you have to ask yourself, do I agree with 80% of their stances or their
Do you have a
policy
20% enemy
proposals?
or 80% ally? Yeah.
Right. So you just have to be practical and ask yourself, and at the end, my dog. So you just have to ask yourself, like, okay, do I want the radical Democrat in, or it's a pretty easy decision for me. Yeah, there might be some that I think might line up more with me a little bit, whether it's their certain stances or their style or whatever, but it's way better than any of the Democrats. So anyways, we have to just, once the primaries come and go, my dog's not happy that I'm still on.
I heard that growl and it was like, yeah, she means business.
She's a Chihuahua. Can you tell? Okay.
Come on, let's go.
Not much more to say. Just
she's over here like, I'll fight a human. Don't think I won't.
She's gonna get fixed in August, and I was told once that happens, she should calm down a little bit. So I'm hoping that it actually happens. So, anyways, but, no, great show tonight. I'll be trying to do more, Facebook lives. I probably, once the primary is done, I'll probably hit a little harder because I've been trying to lay low.
Yeah.
Not getting too much caught up in the fray and all the back and forth of the candidates. So I think once the primaries are over, I'll be more talking more about the races, the different races. So anyways, but okay, you guys have a great night. And
yes, thank you.
Good to be on with you.
Always appreciate it, Stephanie. You always elevate that conversation. I will say that till the day that I die.
I appreciate it, Ed. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this man needs no introduction, but I give him one anyway. The only candidate that I have endorsed in this Wisconsin primary. I mean, let's face it, I don't have to say I'm endorsing Ron Johnson. Everybody is. Well, when it comes to statewide office, Orlando Owens. What's good, brother?
Man, it's all good with you all support. Wisconsin, I need your vote August 9th. Come on out. Vote for me. You've heard my testimony from rags to the okay, back to rags, back to you've heard my testimony. Mm-hmm. I am the quintessential, American, what we are made of. Never giving up, never tapping out, never walking away. So at this point, they threw everything at me from the kitchen sink to the bowling ball.
Oh, they're still trying. They are.
And I can just say you've been with me, and it's been an incredible ride for a year. For some of you all, we've been knowing each other for over 10 years on this conservative ride. Mm-hmm. I need your vote. I need your support. I need your prayers. I need you to come on out, and I need your help right now in the worst way ever. I've worked hard, and I can only ask you that you will reward my hard work with your support and your vote on August 9th. I'll tell you this. It has been a phenomenal ride, Wisconsin. I've enjoyed you from the very first time we started, from the barn to the booth. A treasures you. I've had an incredible ride. And so I ask again, this last time for your vote and support August 9th. I need you. Show up for me. I need you right now. Go to my website, orlando4wi.com. That's Orlando, FORWI.com. It's in the banner section right there that Ed is putting out.
That's right.
I need to help you all. This is it. Final 2 weeks. Let's get fired up for freedom. Let's get fired up for Wisconsin. And let's go get this thing again. And let me tell you this also. It is okay to say USA, USA, USA.
You're going to love this. So my wife and I, we had this years long running joke, and I always pick on her because she's short. She's 5'2" with a 6'1" personality, and she's got this thing for gnomes. She found a bunch of garden gnomes that were all red, white, and blue, USA, the whole bit. And I gotta get you over here one of these days so you can check it out because it is hilarious. But ain't nothing like a red, white, and blue gnome. That's all I'm saying.
You should do a live walking through your garden showing the nose off one day. Like
that would be awesome. I should do it. I even got a gnome with AR just running around. It's awesome. But another thing I want to bring up too real quick before we cut you out here. Endorsed by the Republican Party of Wisconsin.
Pro-life Wisconsin.
Very important. Very important we bring that up.
Endorsed by the state party. You've all given me your support for the most part in the state. I need you to come through for me. I need you to go and give up on me. I need you to come on in. I've never proclaimed to be a person without fault or fall short. I've fallen short, but I thank God for this great country. I thank God for his many blessings and many mercies. The Bible itself is full of people who's fallen short and missed the mark. I'm in the Bible just like you in the Bible. I hope I can get your support to be state treasurer.
All right, brother. I want to thank you very much for joining in here, man. Always a pleasure to have you. We'll definitely debrief for sure. All right, guys. So thank you very much for joining in here tonight. I know I said I was going to do an hour and a half. Here we are approaching the 3-hour marker. But yeah, thank you to Stephanie. Thank you to Tracy. Thank you to Orlando. Thank you to Hilario. Thank you for all you guys in the chat room here. Really appreciate you guys hitting me up here in the chat. You guys blowing up. I mean, I'm looking over here at my messages. I got like 60 of them I haven't answered yet. So thank you very much for doing this. Without you guys, this is not possible. I want to appreciate you guys. So coming up here this week, Dave Estenson. We're going to be interviewing him, 31st District, senatorial candidate for the state of Wisconsin. We got Eric Tooney coming up. We got Paul Farrell coming up, Purnima Nath, Will Martin, Tim Rantham. Got a lot of folks coming up here. Look forward to the conversations. Look forward to your guys' input. If you guys know candidates that want to be a part of this show here, engage in the conversation, have them hit me up. Until then, good night. God bless you. God bless the great state of Wisconsin. God bless America. Thank you again. I'm out.